A photographer's flash clicks twice as the press congratulates the top candidate for the royal recruitment. A reporter asks the 24-year-old top-ranked candidate about the specific position he has taken at the royal palace. A camera clicks twice as the blonde man humbly credits his twin sister for providing him with immense help. The silhouette of Eleanor is framed within a golden portrait as she is heralded as a true academic genius. During the interview, the blonde man confirms that his sister is indeed a genius who ranked first in her exams. A newspaper clipping highlights Eleanor as an excellent teacher who always manages to point out the most critical issues. A sharp, quick crumpling sounds as a hand crushes a document in frustration while shouting the name Eleanor. An angry, blonde-haired woman twice crumples the paper in her hands and wonders what she should do with the idiot. A loud, echoing shout for Dwight rings out across the grand courtyard of the massive estate. A sudden, heavy slam sounds as Eleanor bursts into the room and demands Dwight provide an immediate explanation for his words. A heavy slam sounds as Dwight breaks out in a cold sweat, insisting that he only spoke the truth about Ellen. Eleanor shouts as she reminds him of their promise to only discuss basic exam questions during the press conference. Dwight confidently argues that Eleanor also broke a promise by secretly watching his interview when she said she wouldn't. Dwight asks why she hates attention so much while Eleanor maintains her desire to remain completely out of the spotlight. Eleanor gazes away, explaining her wish for a lazy, peaceful life, while Dwight earns plenty of money for them anyway. A light, airy chuckle sounds as Dwight finds her seriousness funny, which only makes Eleanor insist she is being serious. Eleanor peacefully closes her eyes. A baby cries twice as she recalls her previous life as an ordinary Korean girl struggling with poverty. A nosebleed drops as she remembers gritting her teeth and studying relentlessly to escape the life her parents lived. She worked without a single day off since age 20 to save every penny for her tuition and expenses. Even her choice to become a teacher was motivated entirely by the need for financial stability. A soft whisper sounds as colleagues describe Miss Yojin as a terrifying workaholic who cares for nothing but her professional output. They whisper that she constantly steals the spotlight, leading her to realize that enduring it all was her own fault. A sharp clenching sounds as she resolves never to live that stressful, overtaxed life ever again. She looks back on the days when she felt she had to endure every hardship, regardless of what others said. After years of struggle, she finally paid off the family debt and signed a contract for her own apartment. A soft, relieved hiccup sounds as Yojin weeps with joy at finally being able to live her own life. Tragically, she collapsed only 2 months later and found herself unable to get back up from the floor. At 33 years old, she died from overwork and questioned why her life ended just as she reached her goal. A flashing light shines as she opens her eyes to find herself in a brand new body and world. A woman holds the baby Eleanor Everett, who is surprised that she can already understand the foreign language being spoken. A baby cries twice as she realizes she has been reborn as the infant daughter of a wealthy count. A soft breath sounds as she glances at the other baby nearby, realizing that he is her twin brother. She resolves to live freely. A young voice calls out to Ellen, inviting her to come play in the sunny garden. A soft sound of someone stepping closer is heard as young Dwight tries to convince a lazy Ellen to play outside. Young Ellen smiles knowingly while clutching her book. She plans to endure his playfulness now so she can delegate all household responsibilities to him as an adult. Her reputation as a genius grows throughout the mansion, despite her attempts to stay hidden from everyone else. Young Ellen looks worried that her plan for a lazy life is being ruined by her growing reputation. Young Dwight stares silently at his sister. Adult Eleanor recalls pouring her heart and soul into teaching Dwight everything she knew from her past life. Her only goal in this magnificent mansion is to live a leisurely and carefree life without any work. A sharp sound of letters stacking up is heard as the butler presents a massive pile of new mail. A fluttering sounds as Eleanor reads a letter from Count Edmund Jenkins requesting her services as a tutor for his son. A fluttering sounds as more letters arrive, offering high prices for her tutelage, leaving her butler looking worried. Eleanor rejects the offer of tea and instead orders the butler to bring her twin brother to her immediately. A sharp click sounds as Dwight complains about his hand hurting while Eleanor ignores his request for a break. A sharp sip sounds as Eleanor enjoys her tea while Dwight writes rejection letters until a butler announces a visitor. The butler reveals that the Duke of Valentine has arrived to see her, leaving Eleanor in total shock. Eleanor is stunned to meet the terrifying Cater Idris Valentine, the head of the empire's wealthiest family. She greets him politely, acknowledging it is an honor to meet the Duke. Eleanor formally introduces herself to the visitor. She apologizes for his unexpected visit to her home. A sudden swish sounds as the Duke apologizes for the abruptness of his arrival. He promises to compensate her appropriately for the abrupt nature of his visit to the mansion. She insists she is very honored to meet him regardless of the circumstances. The Duke stares silently in response with a neutral expression. She asks if he would like to sit down for a cup of tea first. A rhythmic clang-clang sounds as tea and cookies are prepared for their meeting. A maid hurriedly brings refreshments as the two settle into the parlor. The Duke reveals he received a response this morning, prompting Eleanor to ask for clarification. A sharp furrowing of his brow is met with her abrupt stop as the tension between them rises. A loud "ah" sounds as Eleanor scolds Dwight in her mind while the Duke confirms he sent a response regarding her unsatisfactory conditions. Eleanor explains her refusal was about her lack of desire and talent for teaching, while the Duke mentions his 8-year-old brother and thinks she is being too humble. He admits his visit was rude but claims he was certain about seeking her out. She cites her lack of academy education and her brother's bragging as reasons to refuse, but the Duke counters that he wouldn't have come just for Demian schooling. The Duke remains stoic and focused on her. He asks her to reconsider his offer one more time. He requests she at least meet the child once before making a final decision. They sit together in quiet contemplation across the tea table. A soft nod signals her agreement to his request. He stands and says he will await her decision. A heavy sigh sounds as Eleanor reflects on her successful interaction with the Duke. The next day, a butler announces that she has another visitor. A quick slide sounds as she opens the door and wonders who it is. A deep inhale sounds as she recognizes a familiar scent from her past. A sandy-haired man greets Ellen warmly, noting it has been a long time. A soft "huh" sounds as she accuses him of avoiding her for months. A sharp turn sounds as the man denies avoidance, reminding her of their past arguments and her strange behavior. He explains he was busy learning upper-level work and needed time to organize his thoughts. She asks if things turned out the way he wanted, and he confirms they did in some ways. A thoughtful sounds as he agrees with her assessment. A sudden step closer sounds as he asks Ellen to look at him directly. He offers her a sincere apology. She looks flustered, reflecting on their 20 years together. She scolds him for leaving without a proper goodbye, and he admits his foolishness. She dismisses his previous message as a mere scrap of paper while he asks for forgiveness. She refuses to forgive him, so he asks what he must do to earn her favor. She claims to hate him. A warm smile crosses his face in response to her ender. A soft stroke of hair sounds as he admits he missed her, and she asks why he's visiting today. He asks if she remembers his niece Sienna, and she confirms she remembers the girl who is turning 9 soon. He explains Sienna is preparing for an entrance exam, causing Eleanor immediate dread. He asks Ellen to become Sienna's teacher. He mentions Sienna's desperate desire to meet her ever since she arrived. She hesitates while addressing him as Rian. She firmly repeats her desire to never teach anyone ever again. A worried silence settles between them as she looks away. A weary sigh sounds as Rian accepts her feelings and prepares to leave for his upper-level duties. Ryan expresses his gratitude for Ellen's understanding and suggests they meet again at the upcoming Royal Palace Ball. He mentions that he purchased a gift for her while keeping her in mind. Ellen reflects on the return of the social season and the repetitive nature of attending balls with her twin brother. She contemplates their mutual lack of romantic success, feeling that while her brother avoids love, she remains unloved. Observing Rian from afar, she thinks that his focus always seems to be on something distant and unattainable. A sudden, quick running sounds as a maid enters to announce that a gift from Duke Valentine has arrived for Ellen. A large pile of gifts arrives. Ellen and her maids are left in total shock by the massive amount of gifts delivered to her. She wonders about the nature of the reward the Duke mentioned previously. A joyful shout sounds as the maids discover a rare designer dress and a large sparkling pearl necklace. Ellen feels overwhelmed by the generosity, but the butler insists that the Duke will not allow any returns. Holding a large bouquet, Ellen is baffled to learn that Marquis Blake has also sent sweets and flowers. The day of the dance approaches. Ellen descends the grand palace stairs. Dwight greets her as they enter the ballroom together, complimenting her impressive appearance. Marquis Blake, also known as Rian, warmly welcomes Ellen as soon as he sees her at the event. Dwight excuses himself to attend to other matters, leaving Ellen and Rian to talk. A soft sound of someone stepping closer sounds as a hand is offered to Ellen for the first dance. Ellen thanks the man for the gift, noting that the flowers are truly beautiful. As they dance, Rian shares that Sienna has improved her behavior following a period of acting spoiled. Ellen admits that she feels a sense of guilt regarding the situation with the young girl. Rian watches Ellen with a style. Rian notes that she seems to be acting a little different than usual this evening. Her eye reflects the ballroom lights. He asks if the reason for her unusual behavior is because of the many gifts she has received lately. A quick, fluid spin sounds as he compliments her beauty while they move across the dance floor. A soft sound of someone moving closer sounds as he whispers that she is incredibly beautiful. A sudden, light whoosh sounds as Ellen's face turns deep red from his compliment. They dance gracefully in the hall. Guests fill the Grand Palace ballroom. Rhea notices she has been drinking champagne and comments that she has only finished 2 glasses so far. A quick, muffled puff sounds as an embarrassed Ellen stops him from mentioning last year's party and accepts his offer for juice. Ellen turns as someone approaches her. She is startled to find Duke Valentine standing directly behind her in the ballroom. He formally requests the honor of a dance with her while extending his hand. A soft, low gossip sounds as the surrounding guests whisper in shock at the Duke asking someone to dance. The crowd continues to murmur rumors about the Duke's chaste nature and his mysterious companion. A gloved hand reaches for her. As they dance, he asks if she liked his gift, and she confirms the dress suits her perfectly. Ellen realizes she has stepped on his toes and worries if he will seek retribution for her clumsiness. A light, quick tap sounds as the Duke pulls her closer and asks her to spend her day off with him. Ellen is left stunned by his forward request and the potentially scandalous phrasing he used. The crowd's whispers intensify as they witness the interaction between the two. Rian returns to Ellen's side and calls out her name, interrupting her moment with the Duke. The two men exchanged cold, formal greetings while glaring at each other with clear hostility. Ellen wonders if the atmosphere between the two men is already becoming this hostile. A light, squeaky sound sounds as Ellen feels pressured between the Duke's demand for an answer and Rian's desire to leave. A soft sound of bowing sounds as Ellen quickly schedules a time for the Duke and thanks him for the gift. Rian questions her about her relationship with the Duke, and she explains it is purely professional. Rian falls into deep thought before asking if he can accompany her to her appointment next week. Ryan tells Ellen that Sienna was eager to meet her and suggests a visit, while Ellen agrees and asks him to bring the girl along so they can talk more easily. A soft sound of someone smiling lightly sounds as Rian expresses his gratitude, noting that Sienna will be delighted by the invitation. A sudden, sharp whoosh sounds as a cold breeze sweeps over the balcony, prompting Rian to ask if they should head back inside. Ellen admits she wants to go home early and asks Rian to find Dwight, worrying about the attention she will receive upon returning to the ballroom. Ryan agrees to her request and promises to fetch her brother immediately. A sudden, light whoosh sounds as Ellen reflects on the Duke's surprisingly gentle nature compared to the terrifying rumors she had heard. Looking out at the evening sky, Ellen thinks about how Rian also seemed more intense and focused than usual during their interaction. The next morning, news flyers spread throughout the palace reporting on a scandalous love triangle between Duke Valentine, Marquis Blake, and a mysterious woman. Public interest peaks as reports describe the Marquis bravely stepping between the Duke and the woman, leaving everyone to wonder who will win her heart. A formal announcement confirms that the relationship between Duke Valentine and the young Marquis Blake has become openly confrontational. A hand reaches for the reports as a man finds the unfolding drama to be a welcome distraction from his boredom. Identifying himself as Crown Prince Ismail, the blonde man muses about his cousin Kaidel's uncharacteristic behavior. Standing by a window, the prince wonders if his notoriously stiff cousin has finally developed feelings for someone. A soft sound of someone shaking their head sounds as the prince continues to contemplate the shock of Kaidel finding interest in another person. Prince Ismail asks his assistant Henry for his opinion on whether the sensational reports could actually be true. Henry confirms the rumors based on his own observations at the ball, leading the prince to ask who has the advantage in the rivalry. Henry admits he would bet on Viscount Blake, prompting the prince to ask for his reasoning. Henry explains that the Viscount and the lady spent time alone on the terrace and she returned wearing his coat, much to the prince's amusement. The prince laughs at the idea of his dull cousin being outmatched and feels a sense of gratitude toward the mysterious lady for stirring things up. Henry reveals that the woman is the twin sister of the prince's youngest assistant, Dwight Everett. The prince realizes that the familiar name now makes perfect sense given the Prince Ismail decides he needs to have a formal conversation with Dwight and instructs Henry to arrange the meeting. Dwight sits in the prince's office looking incredibly tense and overwhelmed by the formal atmosphere. A sudden, low laugh sounds as the prince tells a nervous Dwight to relax while the assistant offers a stuttered thanks. Observing Dwight closely, the prince wonders if the siblings look as similar as the rumors suggest. A sudden, quick laugh sounds as the prince asks about the difficulty of working under the strict Henry, noting that even he gets nagged by the assistant. The two continue their conversation in the lavishly decorated study. The prince finds the information he's gathering to be quite valuable, while Dwight remains on edge. A gold-bordered frame highlights the prince's natural talent for charming and disarming those around him. The prince casually brings up Dwight's twin sister and mentions having read several interesting articles about her lately. A sudden, sharp cough sounds as Dwight reacts with extreme shock to the mention of the scandal involving his sister. The prince apologizes for the surprise and asks if the reports are true, prompting Dwight to frantically claim the truth is being distorted. Dwight clarifies that while his sister is close to the Viscount, her relationship with Duke Valentine is non-existent. He explains that after her successful interview, many people, including the Duke, sent letters seeking her services as a tutor. Dwight believes the Duke's interest is solely focused on his younger brother Damien. He adds that the young boy is even more reserved than his older brother, the Duke. Dwight fidgets nervously while describing the awkward silence that has followed the recent scandal. The prince silently mocks Dwight's naivete regarding the situation. He questions why the press is so relentless given the high status of both the Duke and the Marquis. Dwight laments that his sister Ellen has been trapped inside her home for days to avoid the media frenzy. The prince asks who she plans to tutor, and Dwight reveals she intended to reject every offer she received. Dwight mentions a scheduled meeting in 2 days that he expects will end in a final rejection of all parties. The prince is intrigued that she is meeting both powerful men at once, and Dwight confirms the detail. A close-up shows the prince wearing a knowing and mischievous smile. A sudden, loud shout sounds as someone at a grand estate reacts to shocking news the following day. A formal letter expresses high praise for Ellen's reputation and requests that she educate a boy named Lucas. The letter writer insists they are willing to stand if no chairs are available, showing a relentless desire to meet her. Ellen is shown in deep conversation with Prince Ismail, who has arrived to present his own tutoring offer. At the Duke's residence, a butler reports that the scandal is continuing to grow and shows no signs of fading. The Duke dismisses the butler's offer to suppress the rumors and instead asks to speak with Damien immediately. Duke Valentine ponders the reasons behind his actions. He questions why he reached out after her rejection and asked for a dance despite the potential gossip. He admits that she makes him feel strange. He remembers her as a modest beauty who didn't initially stand out. He recalls how her presence made boring parties bearable, even though she always seemed focused on food. A soft smile touches his lips. He reflects on the joyful and lively way she interacted with her brother. Her bright, genuine laughter remains vivid in his memory. He continues to dwell on these spots. A sudden rhythmic knock sounds at his study door. A sudden sharp snap sounds as his focus returns to the present. Damien enters the room looking small and incredibly nervous. The Duke calmly instructs his younger brother to take a seat. A soft, muffled plop sounds as Damien settles into the large chair. An oppressive silence fills the massive study. Keitel informs Damien that he will soon be eligible for the academy entrance exams. He offers to assign a tutor to help the boy prepare. A sudden, light gasp sounds as Damien looks up in surprise. Keitel emphasizes that the final decision belongs to Damien and he will respect a refusal. He gently urges the silent boy to say something. Stressed by Damien's increasing withdrawal, Keitel suggests they go out tomorrow to meet a special person. He reassures the startled boy that the person isn't a doctor and there is no need to fear. They prepare to leave for their brief appointment. A steady, low rumble sounds as the Duke travels in his carriage. The steady, low rumble continues while Damien sits in silence. A butler at the Everett estate announces the arrival of the high-ranking guests. Ellen prepares her home and instructs the staff to perform a final check. Ryan arrives first, leading a young Sienna by the hand. Ryan greets his host with a war vow. A sudden, quick tap sounds as Ellen welcomes them and compliments Sienna's growth. Sienna looks at Ellen with genuine excitement. Curtsying gracefully, Sienna expresses her delight at being invited. Ryan presents a gift of desserts and asks for a place to set them down. He leads the young girl further into the estate. A sudden, heavy clomp sounds as the next guest arrives. Duke Valentine is formally announced as he enters the hall with Damien. Ellen greets the young master, and Damien asks her to use his name without formality. She gazes warmly at the reserved young boy. A soft, light swish sounds as Damien nods in response. Ellen offers her hand and invites him to enjoy the prepared feast. A soft, firm squeeze sounds as Damien tentatively accepts her hand. Keitel observes the heartwarming interaction with his arms crossed. His intense blue eyes follow her movements. Ellen marvels at the variety of treats Ryan brought while a servant offers to take them. She officially introduces the two young children to each other. Sienna offers a friendly greeting while Damien remains quiet and shy. Ellen asks the men for a private moment after the other guests have settled. The two rivals exchange a tense look. Ellen brings up the scandalous news article and the trouble it has caused. She explains that her silence was intended to protect the reputation of their noble families. Marquise Blake, light brown hair, laughs awkwardly while scratching his head. Duke Valentine, black hair, remains stoic with his arms crossed. Ellen questions their silence and encourages them to speak their minds. A butler's sudden, sharp cough interrupts as he announces the royal carriage. Ellen decides to postpone the conversation as the men exhale in relief. A sudden, loud thud sounds as the doors open to reveal the Crown Prince and Lucas. Prince Ismail offers a formal greeting while Ellen introduces herself. The prince asks her to relax and expresses his genuine interest in meeting her. Ellen stands speechless as the prince offers a warm, gentle smile. Lucas introduces himself and invites Ellen to use his nicknames. Ellen invites Lucas inside for a feast of desserts. A sudden sharp pinch sounds as the prince playfully scolds Lucas for his manners. Ellen reflects on the prince's surprisingly approachable personality. The Duke and Marquis offer a respectful bow as the prince is presented. Prince Ismail greets his cousins and mentions his amusement at their recent scandals. A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as the trio reacts to the prince's teasing. Ellen offers to let the men speak privately while she entertains the children. Both Duke Valentine and Marquise Blake immediately and firmly reject the offer. A sudden, heavy thud sounds as the prince also declines a separate meeting. Despite Ellen's concerns about comfort, the prince insists on staying together. Internally, a sudden, loud scream sounds as Ellen laments her own lack of comfort. Ellen nervously suggests they move to the dining area. The group prepares to proceed all together. Prince Ismail leads the way while his cousins follow behind him. Ellen introduces the children to cocoa and invites them to try it. A soft, quick slurp sounds as Sienna, pink hair, tries the tea. Sienna praises the delicious cocoa, much to Ellen's delight. Lucas admits that he didn't like cocoa before this visit. Ellen gently tells him to blow on the drink to avoid burns. A soft, quick slurp sounds as Damien, dark blue hair, takes a drink. Ellen is pleased they enjoy the treats while Sienna beams. Sienna confirms her academic goals after hearing about Ellen's success. Ellen glances at Rian while the children continue their chatter. Ellen asks Lucas about his preparations for the academy. A soft, low mumble sounds as Lucas mentions the pressure to attend. Lucas confesses that he doesn't find the idea of school fun. The young boy looks dejected while staring at his plate. Lucas carefully blows on his tea while Sienna watches him. Sienna questions the boy's royal status, prompting a sharp retort from Lucas. A sudden, loud clatter sounds as Ellen tries to stop the bickering children. A sudden, loud scream sounds as Ellen desperately resolves to end the chaos. The three high-ranking men stand together in the quiet study. An expectant silence falls between the Duke and the Prince. The Prince explains his visit is motivated by finding the best teacher. Duke Valentine regards his cousin with a look of deep suspicion. Prince Ismail asks if any other reason is truly necessary. The Prince describes his cousin's previously dull life with a smirk. Marquise Blake remains quiet as the Prince mentions Ellen's rejections. Prince Ismail leans back and mentions his curiosity about his aide sister. Marquise Blake confirms the Prince's observations with a mad. Marquise Blake observes that Dwight truly cares for Ellen and mentions their shared history since childhood. Prince Ismail smirks while telling Duke Valentine that the current situation represents an unfavorable fight. Keitel ponders the silence as the Prince notes that neither man has denied the implications. Ismail is amused to find that the rumors surrounding his cousins are actually true. The Prince dismisses the idea of getting upset and notes that Ellen possesses something truly special. Ellen stands as a graceful beauty, a clear reason for the attention she receives. Marquise Blake and Duke Valentine react with visible discomfort. Ismail laughs and tells the men to stop hiding their true intentions. Ellen asks Damien if he has considered taking the entrance exam for the academy. Damien looks down in silence, making Ellen worry she has brought up a sensitive topic. Ellen quickly changes the subject by offering to show Damien the cute ducklings in her pond. Sienna enthusiastically asks if she is allowed to come see the ducks as well. Ellen warmly invites the young girl to visit the estate whenever she wishes. Sienna cheers with pure delight. Lucas asks if he is invited, and Ellen confirms he is welcome to join them. Lucas decides to return the favor by inviting the young lady to the Imperial Palace. Ellen tries to decline the invitation while internally begging for the children to leave. Lucas asks his brother for permission, while Ellen desperately hopes for a refusal. Prince Ismail agrees to the invitation, but first demands that Lucas apologize to Sienna for his manners. Lucas reluctantly agrees to apologize while the prince notes that the palace has much to offer. Ismail asks Sienna if she will come visit, leaving her completely mesmerized. Ellen notes how easily the prince's charm can make others feel weak. Ismail extends the invitation to Keitel and Rian, who both immediately and firmly decline. The two rivals stand together, looking thoroughly annoyed. The prince ignores his cousin's refusal and insists that Lady Everett must visit the palace. Ismail confesses his interest in Ellen and suggests she spend time with him instead of Lucas. Marquise Blake looks on with a sense of growing concern. Duke Valentine watches the interaction with a cold and steady gaze. Ellen is left completely stunned by the prince's bold behavior. Marquise Blake stares downward with a dark and troubled expression. Ellen wonders what is happening with the men. Marquise Blake thanks Ellen for her hospitality as the group prepares to depart. Ellen dismisses her actions as simple snacks, but Rian insists their time was very special. Marquise Blake rests a hand on her shoulder with a gentle gaze. Prince Ismail watches the scene with a silent and knowing expression. Duke Valentine remains stoic and watchful in the background. The narrator reflects on the prince's impulsive nature and expresses concern over the Duke's interest. Marquise Blake wonders why the Duke has developed feelings when there is no apparent connection. He feels relieved that Ellen remains completely unaware of the romantic tensions surrounding her. Ryan asks to have dinner tonight, but Ellen suggests meeting tomorrow instead. Marquise Blake accepts the change but questions why they cannot meet today. Marquise Blake looks away in silent contemplation. Ellen asks the Duke for a private word before he leaves. Duke Valentine stands in quiet dot. Duke Valentine gives a simple, stoic confirmation to the request. Ellen wonders if the Duke looks unusually happy, or if it is just her imagination. Ismail offers to escort Damien home and asks the young boy for his thoughts. A sudden, light nod sounds as Damien quietly agrees to the arrangement. Marquise Blake and Sienna say their goodbyes while Ellen's head is gently patted. Ellen invites Sienna to call her by her name as the girl gives her a goodbye kiss. Ellen tells Damien that she will treat him to delicious cocoa anytime. A soft, quick swish sounds as Damien nods after Ellen suggests a garden walk when the weather gets warmer. The scene shifts to the interior of a quiet, sunlit room. Ellen admits that she still feels nervous being alone with the Duke while tea is served. Duke Valentine watches her with a steady and silent gaze. Keitel notes that Damien is usually a very quiet child who chooses to remain silent. Ellen asks how long the boy has been like this, and the Duke reveals it has been about 3 years. Keitel admits that nothing significant happened at that time, which makes the boy's behavior even more baffling. Ellen notes Damien's reaction to the academy and suggests he receive his education at the Duke's residence instead.
Keitel explains that his home is a dreary place and believes the academy would offer the boy more freedom.
The Duke realizes he is taking up too much of Ellen's time as dinner approaches.
Ellen claims she is not a good person despite the Duke's high regard for her. Duke Valentine firmly asserts that she is a good person.
Ellen argues that they have never spoken before this matter, but the Duke insists that they have.
Ellen is completely shocked and asks why he is so certain of a previous encounter.
Keitel explains that she is someone who is simply very hard to forget.
Ellen turns away in a flustered state while struggling to find her words. Ellen blurts out that the Duke is very handsome. Ellen immediately apologizes for her rudeness, while Keitel notes that she has completely forgotten their first meeting. Duke Valentine looks away with a faint smile and claims to remember the occasion vividly. A flashback reveals a younger Keitel in a crowded, glittering ballroom looking quite annoyed with the social scene. While in the garden, Keitel complains about his sore feet and suspects someone is following him. Ellen, dressed in a pink floral gown, complains to herself about the impracticality of her sandals and long skirt. Keitel watches from afar as Ellen daydreams about chicken and beer while criticizing the palace's lack of sense. Keitel concludes that the young noblewoman is a very odd person. A sudden, loud scream sounds as someone cries out in distress nearby. Keitel's attention is caught by the sight of shattering glass falling through the air. A maid grovels in the grass after dropping a tray of cakes in front of a surprised Ellen. Ellen tells the maid to stand perfectly still.
Keitel watches from the shadows and assumes Ellen will be upset about her expensive dress being ruined.
Ellen turns and calls out to the gentleman in the hat, surprising the Duke. The Duke stands in his garden attire. Keitel asks if she is talking to him, and Ellen confirms there is no one else around. Ellen asks the stranger if she can borrow a handkerchief, and he agrees to her request.
Keitel hands her a folded patterned cloth. Keitel observes the scene with a silent and curious expression.
Ellen uses the cloth to protect the maid's hands from the broken lace. Ellen tells the maid to apply medicine later while the girl worries about the ruined fan. Ellen smiles and dismisses the incident as a blessing in disguise because it allows her to go home early. Ellen tells the maid to return safely while the servant is shocked to be released so easily. Ellen stands alone with a gentle smile. A sudden, sharp gasp sounds as Ellen realizes she still holds the stranger's handkerchief. Keitel tells her to keep the cloth, but Ellen notes how expensive and luxurious it looks. Keitel retorts that her dress looks quite expensive as well. Ellen admits she is unsure of the price because she did not buy the gown herself.
Keitel notes that talking to her feels surprisingly comfortable, and Ellen offers to send him something similar to the cloth.
Keitel finds the interaction quite enjoyable and tells her not to worry about the handkerchief. Ellen reiterates that she has more dresses and considers the accident a blessing because it lets her return home early. A soft, light puffed sounds as Ellen giggles at her own situation. Keitel reacts with a flustered expression. A pair of ornate dress shoes and a ruffled pink skirt appear as a voice calls for Eleanor. Duke Valentine stands before Ellen, noting the commonality of her name as they meet in the sunlit garden. The scene shifts to a bustling restaurant where people enjoy meals that supposedly melt in the mouth. While sipping wine, Ellen asks Marquis Blake why he is being so unusually generous today. Marquis Blake asks if he has ever been stingy with her in the past. Ellen wonders if he wants something from her, and he admits that he has always wanted something. Ellen mentions a desire for a daughter, surprising the Marquis, who recalls her previous lack of interest in marriage. Marquis Blake asks if she is drunk, but Ellen continues to question why he is suddenly allowing her to drink. He leans forward and explains that he feels safe letting her drink because no other men are around to bother her. Ellen laughs at the suggestion, insisting that no one has any romantic interest in her. Marquis Blake closes his eyes and assures her that she is completely mistaken. He tells Ellen that she is simply unaware of how truly beautiful she is. After taking a drink, Marquis Blake confesses that her lack of awareness makes him feel constantly anxious. Ellen wonders why he is complimenting her and tries to drink more, but he warns her to slow down. Ellen argues that getting drunk is the goal, prompting the Marquis to tell her she sounds like his father. Marquis Blake insists she doesn't understand the situation, while a tipsy Ellen claims to know everything about late-night guardian calls. The Marquis is left utterly confused by her strange choice of words. Ellen blushes and tells him he doesn't need to know the details while he simply accepts her answer. Thoughts wander toward Prince Lucas and the idea of having no talent for studying. Ellen slumps onto the table, lamenting her past struggles to escape poverty and her exhaustion. Marquis Blake points out that her family was never poor and tells her to appreciate her privileged upbringing. Ellen looks away with a sad expression, remarking that he doesn't understand the emptiness of life. She asks for the Marquis's age and learns that they are actually the same age. Ellen pats his head and tells him that youth is the best time, while he concludes she is very drunk. As she expresses a desire for a comfortable life, her past as a busy teacher is briefly recalled. Ellen admits her lack of confidence in teaching, and the Marquis finds her behavior incredibly cute. She reflects on the heavy responsibility of being in charge of someone else's life. Ellen looks down with a quiet and thoughtful gaze. The next morning at the estate, a hungover Ellen begs Dwight for water while he scolds her for her lack of moderation. Marquis Blake holds a steaming mug and asks her exactly how much she drank the night before. Ellen blames the wine or her own physical weakness and wonders if Adrian was the one who carried her home. Marquis Blake clarifies that Adrian carried her all the way to her bed. He mentions that Adrian has gone on a business trip and notes that similar incidents have happened before. Ellen complains about her headache as Marquise Blake informs her of an invitation from the Imperial Palace. Ellen worries about the prince's intentions and wonders what has caused this sudden interest. Marquise Blake stands with his hand on his hip, claiming to have done a lot of thinking. Ellen looks up at him with wide, curious eyes. The Marquis stares back with a series of question marks floating around his head. Ellen repeats that she has finally thought everything over. A sudden, sharp dun sounds as Ellen asks if she is really that beautiful, leaving the Marquis horrified. A soft, quick plop sounds as Marquise Blake leans back, concluding that both she and Adrian are insane. Ellen realizes that having the attention of the Duke, the Marquis, and the royal family makes life complicated. Marquise Blake admits that while he cares for her, the current situation is becoming quite annoying. Ellen imagines a future where she opens a large center and relaxes in a director's office. She gleefully suggests using Marquis Blake's handsome face as an advertisement to lure in parents. A sudden, crisp rip sounds as a wax-sealed envelope is torn open. A series of soft ha sounds as Ellen reads a letter from Prince Lucas, who gets her name wrong. The prince explains Prince Ismail's schedule and mentions another guest with pink hair. The day of the royal appointment finally arrives as the Grand Imperial Palace comes into view. Under a glittering chandelier, the voices of Ellen's maids fuss over her while debating their lack of preparation for the visit. Prince Ismail notes that the table seems high and offers to cut Ellen's meat from her. A sudden, sharp slice sounds as Kydal slides over his own plate, suggesting they switch since his meat is already cut. Ellen thanks the Duke as Prince Ismail observes that children and adults act the same, while Kydal dismisses the helpful gesture as nothing. As a quick sit-upright sounding, Ellen looks at the perfectly sliced food and thinks that the Duke's meat-cutting skills are quite impressive. A soft pff sounds as Ismail warns that being overly kind can be a burden to others, while Ellen privately finds the Crown Prince to be the most comfortable person present. Ismail asks if her journey was difficult, and Ellen replies that the royal garden was so beautiful she enjoyed her time sightseeing. Ismail mentions that Lucas seemed very happy that day and kept pushing him to attend the gathering. Ismail notes that the boy seems to have made a friend before asking Kydal if he has heard a recent interesting story. Kydal is stunned as Ellen worries about the prince's sense of humor, while Ismail confirms that they previously had dinner together. Ellen reacts with shock while Ismail snickers, asking if she was too drunk to move because of the wine. Ismail mentions her speaking loudly about work hardships, leaving a mortified Ellen to wonder exactly how much he overheard. Ellen tells His Highness that embarrassing a lady is improper and that paying attention to someone like her is a waste of national resources. A soft smile sounds as Ismail claims to be genuinely moved by the twins giving advice together. After a quiet mumble sounding, Ismail laughs and promises to respect her privacy more, prompting a grateful thank you from Ellen. A sudden clink and rustle sounds as Ellen is awed by the glittering royal desserts, noting how much better they are than those sold outside. Ellen wishes for a raspberry tart that is just out of reach, leading Kydal to ask exactly which one she wants. The blonde-haired woman gazes intently at the berry-covered treat. A quick bite sounding follows Kydal's nod as Ellen marvels at how the sweet tart melts in her mouth. Ellen's fork makes a quick tap sounding while the Duke watches her with an unwavering and intense gaze. A long stare sounding fills the quiet air as Kydal focuses entirely on her. Ellen stares back at him in a silent daze. A sudden quick whoosh sounds as Ellen, overwhelmed by the Duke's beauty, offers him a piece of her delicious tart. The black-haired man looks at her in surprise. A sudden quick whoosh sounds as Kydal agrees, followed by a soft hoop as he eats from her fork and a lick as he finishes. A soft smile sounds as Kydal says the dessert is good, leaving Ellen in a state of extreme, blushing embarrassment. Ellen panics internally as she realizes she just fed Duke Valentine using his own fork with the other royals watching. Ismail asks why she has such an expression, and while Ellen claims it is nothing, she wonders why Kydal accepted the food so easily. Duke Valentine continues to watch her with a steady and silent expression. A soft laugh sounds as Kydal tells her to keep eating, and Ellen weakly agrees. Prince Lucas whispers to the children at the end of the table, asking if they saw what just happened. Focus shifts to the pink-haired girl sitting across from the boys. The pink-haired girl confirms that she saw the interaction. Lucas turns and asks Demian for his thoughts on the matter. Focus shifts to the black-haired boy. A soft nod sounding follows as Demian confirms his observation. The children agree that the behavior was definitely odd and wonder why someone would feed another person like that. A sudden heavy thud sounds as Lucas stands up and argues that Ellen's hands are fine and not everyone behaves that way. After a quiet mumble sounding, Lucas concludes that the adults must be lovers. All three children react with a stunned and frozen expression. A sudden, loud boom sounds as they wonder about their relatives, while a soft giggle escapes Demian as he calls the boy annoying. Back at the main table, Ellen suggests collaborating, and the Duke clarifies that they should team up. A sudden swish sounds as the pink-haired girl declares that she wants Ellen to marry their uncle. Lucas stares at her with a flat and unhappy expression. Lucas rejects the proposal because he likes Ellen quite a lot himself. Duke Valentine watches the children's conversation with a calm and silent gaze. Ellen reflects on the idea of working together until they can defeat a common enemy. The pink-haired girl is annoyed that her brother had a date and complains that men never know what is truly important.
Lucas agrees to team up and prevent the Valentine brothers from monopolizing things.
The two children shake hands as an official alliance is formed.
Ellen notices Demian looks pale and asks if he is okay, but the boy simply gives a silent nod.
Ellen's wide green eyes are shown in a startled puss-up. Prince Ismail snickers at the table, suggesting that romantic feelings will surely develop over time. A series of sharp clacks sounding echoes as a figure approaches, leading Ismail to ask if his mother has arrived. A sudden quick jump-up sounds as Ellen rises in shock upon realizing the woman is the crown prince's mother. The silver-haired queen appears in a grand blue gown, assuring everyone there is no need for such formality.
The queen apologizes for arriving unannounced and admits her presence might be considered impolite.
A polite bow sounding follows as Duke Valentine formally greets Her Majesty. The queen notes it has been a long time since she last saw Marquis Blake and asks after his mother. A polite bow sounding follows as the Marquis thanks her for the concern and reports his mother as well. A soft smile sounds as Ellen privately admires the queen's elegant beauty and graceful aging. Curtsying in her floral green dress, Ellen introduces herself as Eleanor Everett and expresses her honor at the meeting. The queen gently repeats her request for everyone to relax and skip the formalities. A soft smile sounds as Ellen laughs nervously, struggling with the immense pressure of meeting royalty. Ellen looks surprised as she finds herself standing face-to-face with the queen.
The scene shifts to a wide, sparkling view of the palace's lush and rose-filled gardens.
A curious look around sounds as Ellen marvels at the garden, while the queen notes its daytime beauty. The queen gracefully leads the way and asks Ellen to follow her. The queen admits she was simply curious to meet Ellen since everyone has been talking about her lately. Focus shifts to the queen's hands, which are adorned with a massive blue gemstone ring. A moment of quiet transition passes as the atmosphere of the palace grounds settles. The queen continues to rest her hands gracefully as they continue their walk.
Ellen is taken aback by the sudden mention of the queen needing a favor.
The queen reveals her request is for Ellen to help Lucas enroll in the academy. The queen explains that Lucas is the son of the late queen who passed away 2 years ago. The queen claims she cares for the boy in her own way, a statement that leaves Ellen surprised. The queen admits Ismail is her priority and she cannot afford to indulge Lucas indefinitely.
A memory shows a younger Prince Ismail as a kind-hearted boy who lacked any personal ambition. The young Prince Ismail is shown smiling brightly in the heart of the flashback.
The queen reveals her true intention is for Lucas to eventually leave the palace. She believes that sending Lucas to the academy for a few years will strengthen Ismail's position. A soft, heavy sigh sounds as the queen notes that Lucas's lack of interest in study has become an obstacle. A soft laugh sounds as the queen finds the irony of the current situation slightly amusing. A soft rustling sounds as the queen asks if she can trust Eleanor to handle this important task. Ellen stands silently among the flowers, weighing the heavy responsibility she has just been given.
Back at the estate, Ellen laughs while reflecting on the things she doesn't actually need in her life.
Hands hold a small ornate wooden case featuring an engraved crest.
Ellen realizes she simply lacks the courage to turn down a direct request from the queen.
Ellen looks startled as the full weight of her new royal assignment sinks in. A firm, silent nod sounds as Ellen makes the decision to accept the challenge. A bright laugh sounds as the queen expresses her joy and gratitude toward Eleanor. To show her thanks, the queen offers a card that provides free access to any part of the palace. A sudden, quick swoosh sounds as Ellen gasps in shock while being handed the powerful card. A weary, heavy sigh sounds as Ellen reflects on the difficulties of the tasks ahead of her. A soft click and rustle sounds as Ellen calculates that the crucial exams are less than a year away. A soft rustling sounds while Ellen notes that having the students join the class together was the right move. A soft rustling sounds as Ellen complains about having to manually write documents without a computer. Ellen admits that while the work is exhausting, setting the questions gives her a strange sense of satisfaction. Ellen sits at her desk and stares out the window at the peaceful night sky. The sun rises over the grand estate, signaling the start of a busy new day. Ellen greets Lucas as a student, while the boy respectfully addresses her as his kitcher. A soft sprinkle sounding follows as the blonde-haired boy asks Eleanor to simply call him Luke instead of Sir Lucas. Duke Valentine explains that the crown prince ordered proper etiquette toward the teacher, and a sudden, quick nod sounding accompanies his request for her cooperation. Ellen invites Luke inside while mentioning the others will arrive later, and an excited mumble sounding follows as the boy realizes he is first. A sudden, heavy push sounding is followed by a quick thump-thump sounding as Sienna rushes into the room, announcing her arrival. A soft, weary sigh escapes the pink-haired girl as Ellen assures her that arriving now is perfectly fine. A sudden, quick chatter sounding fills the air as the two children bicker, leaving Ellen to reflect on how difficult it is to understand the minds of children. A sudden, heavy thump-thump sounding echoes as a pair of formal black shoes walks across the polished floor. A sudden, heavy thump-thump sounding continues as Ellen wonders if the Duke and Demian have arrived, while Kydell looks on with a steady gaze. After a soft, quick pat sounding, the Duke greets Ellen and suggests they all enter the living room together to join the other children. A sudden, quick shake sounding follows as Ellen asks Demian if he is hesitant to go inside.
A polite bow sounding followed by a soft whisper sounding occurs as Demian blushes and insists that he can enter the room on his own. The Duke watches the boy with a silent and contemplative expression.
Ellen gazes back with a look of quiet curiosity. A sudden quick swoosh sounding marks the moment the black-haired boy hurries away, leaving the two adults standing alone. Duke Valentine notes that Demian beginning to speak more is a positive development. A soft, quick, flustered mumble sounding escapes Keitel as he suddenly appears uneasy. A sudden, loud boom sounding fills Keitel's mind as he remembers the intense moment of being fed a tart by Ellen. A soft, shy mumble sounding followed by a deep bend sounding occurs as Ellen asks if the Duke came personally out of worry for Demian, though she cannot meet his eyes. Keitel claims he is not busy at all, drawing a steady look from the blonde-haired woman. The black-haired man watches her with an unwavering and intense blue gaze. Keitel internally berates himself for using such a useless and transparent phrase. An awkward, quick mumble sounding follows as the Duke clarifies that while he has much to do, he has plenty of time to escort Demian to school. A sudden, quick nod sounding passes between the two as they reach a silent understanding. A soft, weary pew sounding escapes Ellen as she promises to handle everything and take good care of the children. A stunned mumble sounding followed by a sudden, quick nod sounding occurs as the Duke thanks her and agrees to pick Demian up later, making Ellen feel he is acting more like a normal person. Ellen politely bids the Duke a safe journey back. Duke Valentine reflects on why he continues to act so foolishly in her presence. A sudden, heavy, dun-dun sounding accompanies Sienna's realization that the man she thought was an obedient cat is actually something else. Sienna concludes that the Duke is actually a cunning fox with shaggy fur. A sudden, quick shrug sounding follows as the children celebrate their successful strategy of creating private time for the adults, hoping for their happiness. Demian reflects that the Duke likely won't scold him for his role in the scheme. Sienna observes that her brother currently holds the advantage in their ongoing competition. A sudden, heavy slap sounding followed by a quick I see sounding occurs as Sienna and Lucas vow not to be outdone in their displays of cunning. Ellen enters the library and asks about their lively conversation before suggesting they begin the day's lesson. A soft, bright laugh sounding echoes as Ellen presents the children with their upcoming assignments. A soft, weary pant sounding followed by an evil laugh sounding occurs as the children reel from the heavy workload while Ellen relishes her role as a teacher. A soft, quick rustle sounding fills the quiet room as the three students begin their work. A soft, quick rustle sounding continues while a chalkboard lists the 4 core subjects of the curriculum. A soft, quick rustle sounding follows as the first lesson's results are revealed, showing Demian and Sienna excelled, while Lucas still has much to learn. A soft, quick rustle sounding underscores Demian's intense focus as he continues his studies. Ellen notes that the local foreign language is remarkably similar to English, which is a major advantage for her. Ellen reflects that while the children struggle with foreign languages, she is well equipped to help them improve. Lucas stares forward with a gaze of intense and solemn determination. Ellen wonders if the boy's surprising dedication stems from a deep sense of royal patriotism. Ellen recognizes that bridging the significant gap in learning abilities among the 3 children will be her most difficult task. Ellen returns the graded papers and commends everyone for their hard work. A sudden, heavy, sounding follows as Lucas asks if the session is over and Ellen officially dismisses the class. Ellen asks Lucas about his private education at the palace and learns that while tutors change often, a woman named Angela is usually in charge. A sudden, quick whoosh sounding accompanies Ellen handing Lucas a sealed letter to deliver to his guardian. Lucas is puzzled by the envelope as Ellen explains she wishes to meet the person responsible for his education. A sudden, quick exclamation sounding escapes Lucas as he stares at his graded paper in shock before a bright smile spreads across his face. A sudden, heavy dun-dun sounding underscores the shock on Sienna and Demian's faces as they react to the unexpected turn of events. Ellen offers the children cocoa while they wait, prompting excited requests from Sienna and Lucas while Demian gives a sudden, quick nod sounding in agreement. Ellen tells the children to wait a moment as she turns to head toward the kitchen. A soft, quick click sounding is followed by a sudden, quick chatter sounding as the children begin to bicker about a failed negotiation while Ellen is away. Sienna accuses the blonde-haired boy of using dirty tricks to maintain their alliance. Lucas dismisses her complaints by claiming that life is simply unfair. Demian vows to never become so childish while Sienna reflects on her uncle's frustrating habits. A sudden, heavy thump sounding followed by a soft, quick rustle sounding accompanies a pair of brown boots walking into the room. A sudden, heavy thump sounding occurs as the black-haired boy looks on with wide, startled eyes. A sudden, heavy thump sounding continues as the pink-haired girl stares up in surprise at the newcomer. A sudden, quick click sounding marks the arrival of Marquise Blake, who immediately asks for Ellen's whereabouts. A sudden, quick thud-thud sounding follows as Sienna points him toward the kitchen, leading Leon to decide he wants some cocoa as well. A sudden, quick walk X2 sounding echoes through the library as the brown-haired man heads toward the kitchen. A sudden, quick humph sounding followed by a soft, bright smile sounding occurs as Sienna reflects on life's many surprises. Ellen is surprised to see the Marquis in the kitchen and asks if he is there to pick up Sienna. A soft, quick chuckle sounding escapes the man as he admits he came specifically to see Ellen. Ellen offers to make him a cup of cocoa and asks if he would like marshmallows included. A soft, melodic tune seems to fill the air as the two spend a quiet, peaceful moment together in the kitchen.
Ellen asks why he is staring at her, unaware that he is internally admiring her beauty.
A soft, quick, gently sounding follows as Leon offers to carry the drinks, but Ellen insists he try his cocoa first.
Leon praises her as the best teacher while playfully noting the difference in their marshmallow counts.
A soft, quick sip sounding occurs as Ellen takes a drink from her blue mud. A moment of quiet transition passes as the camera focuses on the blonde-haired woman's lips.
Leon suddenly calls her name, drawing her attention with a look of quiet intensity.
A sudden, quick whoosh sounding follows as the brown-haired man leans in close to the startled woman.
Leon reaches out to wipe a bit of foam from Ellen's lip as she looks on in shock. The brown-haired man keeps his hand steady as he points out the foam remaining on her face. Ellen reflects that his handsome face is genuinely harmful to her heart's stability.
A soft, quick cough sounding followed by a soft, quick laugh sounding occurs as the Marquis pulls away.
The two walk back through the palace hallway together carrying the tray of cocoa.
A sudden, quick, stupefied sounding follows as Leon stops in his tracks upon seeing someone waiting.
Duke Valentine stands in the hallway, drawing a tense greeting from the Marquis.
A sudden, quick clank sounding followed by a sudden, quick confused sounding occurs as Sienna marvels at her father's personal arrival.
Frustration bubbles over as Sienna wonders what her uncle should do now. Leon notes the Duke's deep feelings for his brother despite their busy schedules. The Marquis internally dismisses the Duke's actions as nonsense while the atmosphere grows cold. Keitel watches the Marquis with a silent and steady gaze. The Duke calmly states that he cannot help but care for his only blood relative.
A sudden quick slap sounding followed by a soft quick hee sounding follows as Leon vows to pay more attention to his niece.
Keitel internally berates the Marquis for wandering around when he should be busy studying. A memory shows the two as children, with Leon described as a fox in disguise as a good friend. Sienna finds the entire situation incredibly annoying as she watches the adults.
A sudden, quick slap sounding follows as Keitel reflects on his desire to keep someone like Leon away forever.
A sudden, quick press sounding accompanies Keitel's reminder about the test scheduled for today. Ellen ignores the tension and asks Leon if he can watch the children for a short time. The brown-haired man looks down with a somber and serious expression.
A soft, weary sigh sounding follows as Leon reluctantly agrees to her request.
The scene shifts as the group settles in to discuss the day's results.
A soft, quick rustle sounding fills the air as Ellen presents Demian's report card to the dupe. A sudden, quick pause sounding follows as Keitel reacts with surprise to the news that Demian's scores are high enough for an entrance exam.
A sudden, quick, stiff sounding occurs while the blonde-haired woman suggests they go through the results one by one. The black-haired man grows tense as a sudden, quick, stiff sounding, followed by a sudden, quick, awkward sounding occurs while Ellen notes a weakness in the foreign language section. A soft, bright smile sounding follows as Ellen reassures the Duke and suggests he look at the math score instead. A soft, quick wave sounding followed by a sudden, quick, sparkling X2 sounding accompanies the reveal of a perfect math score as Ellen looks for his reaction. The Duke is momentarily speechless as he stares at the paper with wide eyes. Keitel mumbles the score in disbelief, prompting Ellen to confirm the 100 points with a satisfied expression.
A sudden, quick confused sounding, followed by a sudden, quick silent sounding, fills the air as the two sit in awkward silence.
A soft, quick ah sounding escapes Ellen as she encourages the Duke to be proud of his brother's achievement. A sudden, heavy bang sounding accompanies the Duke's awkward glance as he admits the result is truly impressive. A soft, bright hee sounding follows as Ellen laughs at his difficulty in expressing feelings and asks him to praise Demian more. Ellen explains that praise is a better motivator than criticism, leading the Duke to quietly promise he will try. The blonde-haired woman looks ahead with a serene and hopeful gaze. Keitel watches her with a look of growing appreciation and focus. Narrative text notes the Duke's repeated requests for help and his personal arrival to pick up Demian today. A white-haired man stands in a grand room and reflects on seeing a familiar name in the newspaper as a new opportunity. Ellen stands in a garden and wonders about the necessity of traveling such a long distance. Back on the sofa, the blonde-haired woman emphasizes that nothing will change without open communication. The black-haired man looks down with a somber and thoughtful expression. A sudden, quick nod sounding followed by a sudden, quick grasp sounding occurs as Keitel clenches his fist in silent agreement. Ellen offers her continued availability should the Duke have any further questions. A sudden, brighten sounding follows as the Duke's eyes light up while asking if she means meeting in person. The two spend a final quiet moment together in the elegant palace study. A sudden, quick pucker sounding occurs as Keitel purses his lips while looking away with a slight blush. A sudden, heavy knock sounding on the door precedes a voice calling out for Ellen. The scene shifts to a wide, sun-drenched view of the majestic palace exterior. A soft, quick rustle sounding accompanies a letter from a man requesting a moment to discuss important matters with Ellen. The white-haired man invites her to set a convenient time and place, expressing his hope for a pleasant day. The white-haired man reads the letter signed by Eleanor Everett and decides he will gladly accept the meeting request.
A sudden quick whoosh sounding follows as the man uses a quill to sign his reply. A soft, quick swish-swish sounding accompanies the man's musings on the lovely afternoon and the greenery outside. Lucas holds out a letter and happily reports that it arrived safely on time. The soft, bright smile sounding follows as the white-haired man looks at the correspondence. A brief note requests that the reply be forwarded through Lucas if a meeting is impossible. The man looks out over a sparkling fountain while wishing her warmth and the goddess's blessing. A sudden, quick rustling sounding fills the quiet library as Ellen begins her work. Wearing glasses, the blonde-haired woman wonders how she will manage to finish textbooks for 4 different subjects. Narrative text explains the high cost of vellum and the difficulty of manual printing versus handwriting hundreds of copies. A sudden, quick, deep, and thought sounding follows as Ellen considers her options while holding a quill. The blonde-haired woman focuses intently on the idea of printing exactly 300 copies. A sudden, quick plop sounding accompanies Ellen's decision to sell textbooks and print weekly materials instead of increasing her workload. Ellen plans to deliver the materials to each home just like a newspaper. The woman considers including a teaching program to help other instructors with their lessons. A sudden, quick gasp sounding followed by a sudden, heavy spark sounding occurs as Ellen excitedly develops her new business model. A sudden, quick, determined sounding follows as Ellen resolves to seek business advice from Marquis Blake. A quiet transition shows the blonde-haired woman working diligently at her desk as seen from the garden. Ellen walks through the town and asks for directions to the Amicitia Cafe. The blonde-haired woman finds the hidden cafe remarkably difficult to find in the small alleys. A sudden, quick looking around sounding, followed by a sudden, heavy knock sounding, occurs as Ellen finally locates the correct door. A sudden, quick creak sounding accompanies the door opening to reveal a woman with light-colored hair and closed eyes. A sudden, quick gasp sounding follows as the blonde-haired woman stands in the center of the room with a look of pure shock. A sudden, quick, bright sounding follows as the blonde-haired woman marvels at the stunning and ornate palace hallway. The blonde-haired woman reflects that the collection of paintings on the walls looks incredibly expensive. The blonde-haired woman looks ahead with a focused and silent gaze. A man wearing an ornate white outfit and a large pink jewel brooch is shown in close-up. The blonde-haired woman turns around with a look of quiet surprise. The blonde-haired woman stares forward with a blank and stunned expression. A soft, quick laugh sounding follows as the blonde-haired woman recognizes the white-haired man as the crown prince and wonders how he arrived. A sudden, quick clatter sounding accompanies the white-haired man's mention that Lucas was the one who sent the letter. The white-haired man suggests that the blonde-haired woman call him Ismail as they sit together at a table. In their simplified forms, the woman admits she expected to meet someone named Angela, prompting the white-haired man to explain that while that was the plan, the letter reaching him was no mistake. The white-haired man explains he is Lucas's older brother and guardian in charge of his education, leading the woman to express her surprise. A sudden, quick looking around X2 sounding occurs as the blonde-haired woman admits she never expected to meet His Highness in such a place. A soft, quick smile sounding follows as the white-haired man notes the location is interesting, drawing an agreement from the woman who feels it is quite different from the outside world. The white-haired man explains the royal family uses the cafe for rest or secret meetings, leaving the blonde-haired woman stunned. The white-haired man looks ahead with a focused and silent gaze. A soft, quick shh sounding follows as the white-haired man mentions the cafe is perfect for those in love. The white-haired man asks the blonde-haired woman to understand that their meeting is a secret. A sudden, quick, huh? Sounding follows as the woman asks what would happen if she spread the word, prompting the man to joke about keeping her locked in his office forever. A soft, quick chuckle sounding follows as the white-haired man clarifies his desire to meet her, leaving the blonde-haired woman confused. The white-haired man encourages the woman to think about it more, confident she will find the answer soon. A soft, quick, deep in thought sounding underscores the blonde-haired woman's intense focus as she ponders his words. A sudden, quick realization sounding follows as the blonde-haired woman is struck by a sudden and important thought. The blonde-haired woman notes that teasing an innocent lady is mischievous, drawing a playful question from the white-haired man. The white-haired man admits his playful nature, but notes that not everything he says is a joke. The white-haired man explains he called her there because she is qualified to use the place, mentioning the wooden token with an albatross she received from his mother. A close-up shows a wooden token with a detailed engraving of an albatross surrounded by a wreath. The blonde-haired woman confirms receiving the item as the white-haired man emphasizes that it holds more meaning than she realizes. In her simplified form, the blonde-haired woman marvels at being treated like a VIP after learning she can visit the reservation-only cafe anytime. The white-haired man watches her with a focused and silent gaze. The white-haired man asks if the woman wants to know more, drawing an eager confirmation from her. The white-haired man suggests they meet often so he can show her something new every day, leaving the blonde-haired woman speechless. The white-haired man sits with his hands clasped and asks how his proposal sounds. The blonde-haired woman reflects that she is famous for being no fun and worries that spending time with her will be boring. The white-haired man disagrees and states that he finds her to be the most interesting person, leading her to wonder if she looks funny to him. The white-haired man expresses his happiness in having her near and notes that he is glad his existence can make her laugh. A soft, quick smile sounding follows as the blonde-haired woman reflects on how comfortable she feels around the crown prince. A soft, quick smile sounding follows as the white-haired man asks for the true reason she wanted to meet with him today. A sudden, quick clatter sounding followed by a soft, quick ha-ha sounding occurs as the white-haired man realizes Lucas is struggling with his other subjects. A soft, quick ah sounding followed by a soft, quick ha-ha sounding occurs as the soft, quick shrug sounding follows as the white-haired man admits everyone knows Lucas has no interest in academics and vows to try his best. The blonde-haired woman offers her help and asks if another teacher can be arranged to provide Lucas with more basic knowledge. A soft, quick shrug sounding follows as the white-haired man agrees, but asks why she doesn't simply teach the boy herself for an extra allowance. The blonde-haired woman explains she has a private business to attend to, drawing a curious question from the white-haired man. A soft, heavy silence sounding fills the air as the two sit together at the ornate table. A soft, quick tilt sounding follows as the white-haired man suggests keeping her business a secret between them. The blonde-haired woman firmly states that she cannot reveal her business secret even to the crown prince. A sudden, quick, determined sounding follows as the woman insists on caution, while the man grows even more curious about her plans. A sudden, quick snap sounding follows as the white-haired man offers to be a solid backing for her business. A sudden, quick, determined sounding follows as the blonde-haired woman refuses to use royal power for such trivial matters. A soft, quick smile sounding follows as Ismael asks if Eleanor no longer needs him since she has the Empress's favor. A soft, quick ha-ha sounding underscores Eleanor's denial, while Ismael playfully agrees to stop pressing her in exchange for a favor. The blonde-haired woman looks up curious about the return request. A soft, quick tilt sounding follows as Ismael asks if she can lend him the rest of her day. A sudden, quick, confused sounding occurs as Eleanor admits she has no plans but wonders why he is asking. A soft, quick smile sounding follows as Ismael crosses his arms with a pleased look. A sudden, quick, radiant X2 sounding accompanies the white-haired man as he walks through the city carrying numerous shopping bags. The two walk together through the busy streets laden with purchases. Eleanor warns the crown prince that he will be scammed if he keeps throwing money at useless things. A soft, quick shh sounding follows as Ismael shushes her, prompting Eleanor to use his name instead of his title. Eleanor reflects on the crime of using his name, while Ismael argues that they need to spend money, despite her noting he hasn't touched any of the items. A soft, quick no sounding, followed by a soft, quick follow closely sounding, occurs as Eleanor asks if he planned to use her as a porter, though Ismael insists he only finds shopping alone boring. A sudden, quick, shocked sounding follows as Ismael offers all the items to Eleanor, who regrets not choosing more carefully. A soft, quick ha-ha-ha sounding, followed by a soft, quick sigh sounding, occurs as Ismael enjoys the excitement of gifts, while Eleanor worries about his excessive spending. Eleanor notes the honor for her family, but insists they stop, drawing a gentle agreement from the crown prince. A sudden, quick pause sounding follows as a voice calls out to the pair, suggesting they get their fortune told as a couple. A tan-skinned woman sitting on the ground offers a reading for just 1 coin, claiming to be quite talented. The old woman insists they won't find such a low price for a reading anywhere else. A soft, quick oh sounding, followed by a sudden, quick, intrigued sounding occurs as Ismael's curiosity peaks, while Eleanor remains skeptical of the untrustworthy stranger. A soft, quick step sounding follows as Ismael approaches, noting that one never knows what life might bring. A soft, quick sounding follows as the simplified Eleanor tries to save him from a scam, while Ismael encourages her to sit beside him. A soft, quick rustle sounding follows as they sit before the old woman to begin the reading. The woman immediately identifies Ismael as a child from a prestigious family. The woman notes that Ismael's status is obvious and describes him as a complex thinker who appears idle but likely struggles with sleep and has a cold inner personality. She adds that he is skilled at judging situations and avoids actions that would bring him harm. The old woman shifts her gaze toward the suspicious lady to read her fate. A sudden, quick, shocked sounding followed by a soft, quick oh my sounding occurs as the woman predicts Eleanor's fate of working until death despite her fame, though she notes the pair are highly compatible for a long-term relationship. The woman warns that the young man will suffer because the girl is clumsy in love and her heart is hard to move. Ismael claims to be quick-witted, but the woman dismisses it as an illusion, calling him poor at expressing emotions and prone to fear. The old woman notes that the girl possesses a strong floral scent. She explains that Eleanor naturally attracts others and that people needing her will continue to appear in her life. A soft, quick laugh sounding followed by a soft, quick, quickly sounding followed by a soft, quick no sounding occurs as the woman notes they aren't lovers yet, much to Ismael's frustration. A soft, quick, sad sounding follows as Ismael asks if they have no fate together, making Eleanor feel as though he is playing unfair with his expression. The old woman watches them with a silent and steady gaze. The woman addresses the young man, stating she has some advice for him. She warns him that thinking too long will lead to missed opportunities and that caution can become poison, advising him to let his emotions lead. A soft, quick nod sounding follows as Ismael accepts her words while the woman confirms her reading. The two remain seated in quiet reflection. The woman hopes he won't forget her words as Ismael prepares to pay her. Standing to leave, Ismael promises to keep her advice in mind. A grand carriage travels down a long, ornate palace road. A sudden, quick knock-knock sounding follows as Eleanor reflects on receiving deep romantic advice from a fortune teller while with the crown prince. A sudden, quick, absent-minded sounding follows as Eleanor notes the white-haired man has been distracted ever since the meeting. A soft, quick clop-clop sounding follows as the carriage enters a familiar estate Eleanor hasn't visited in years. Eleanor recalls her childhood on this road and reflects that while the Marquis would help her, she cannot ask carelessly. The scene shifts to the interior of the Blake marquisate where a voice welcomes a long-absent daughter. A sudden, quick whoosh sounding follows as Claude Blake greets Eleanor with open arms and asks if she has eaten. Eleanor hugs the Marquis warmly, though she notes her mouth is still not used to calling him Claude as he requested. Claude pats her head and expresses how much he missed her, while Eleanor promises to explain her busy life slowly. A sudden, quick whoosh sounding followed by a sudden, quick tisk-tisk sounding occurs as Claude asks for news about Rian, joking that despite his efforts to make the boy handsome, he isn't worthy of his face. Claude asks why Ellen doesn't just become his daughter, listing his superior wealth and looks. Ellen laughs about her father's fury, while Claude notes her father's only edge is his daughter. Claude asks for the true purpose behind her letter and request for a meeting. Ellen declares her intent to start a business project and requests Claude's partnership. The two sit at the ornate table, a heavy silence hanging between them. Claude questions if she truly understands the weight of a business partnership. A sudden, quick, startled sounding follows as Claude mentions his loyalty as her godfather and her father's best friend. Claude's gaze hardens as the conversation shifts to professional terms. Claude explains that a business partnership means treating her as a professional peer. Claude emphasizes that he will judge the project purely by numbers and profit. Claude asks if she is truly prepared for the potential hardships. Ellen confirms her commitment with a steady and resolute response. A soft, quick ha-ha sounding occurs as Claude challenges her to convince him. Ellen smiles, ready to present her ideas. Time passes as they dive into the details of the proposal. Claude asks for the final strategy of her business plan. Ellen details her marketing strategy using scarcity and urgency to drive sales. Claude praises the clever use of psychological triggers to attract the nobility. A sudden quick click sounding occurs as Claude agrees to support her. Claude outlines the distribution terms for the Broden Trading Company. A sudden, quick, absent-minded sounding follows as Claude offers a generous profit split while Ellen agrees distractedly. A soft, quick, stunned sounding occurs as Claude maintains his professional stance. A soft, quick ha sounding follows as Claude warns her against accepting initial offers. Ellen admits her trust in him while Claude worries about her business naivete. A soft, quick smirk sounding follows as Claude notes the rare generosity of his company. A sudden, quick whoosh sounding follows as Claude admits her proposal earned that share. A soft, quick complain sounding follows as Claude pinches Ellen's cheek playfully. A soft, quick complain X2 sounding occurs as Claude demands monthly meetings. Ellen feels positive about the progress and the future of her project. Ellen smiles as a student begs to finish early to escape his subjects. The blonde boy pleads for a break from his difficult studies. A soft, quick pft sounding follows as Ellen asks what they would do instead. A sudden, quick flap sounding followed by a sudden, quick bang sounding occurs as the other students join in. A sudden, quick sparkle X3 sounding follows as the children's eagerness leads Ellen to worry about their enthusiasm. A soft, quick huh sounding occurs as Ellen sets a score requirement that the children find daunting. A soft, quick nod sounding occurs as the dark-haired boy agrees to the terms. Ellen proposes a collective score goal to foster teamwork among the group. The children prepare for their test in the Grand Library. In the backyard, ducks swim peacefully in the clear water of the pond. A sudden, quick wow sounding follows as the children admire the box. The children celebrate their success after barely reaching the score target. Ellen watches the happy group, reminding them to stay within her sight. The children run toward the water, full of excitement. A sudden, quick tat-tat sounding followed by a soft, quick rustle sounding occurs as Ellen notes how quickly the children bonded. Ellen feels grateful for the children's kindness and good behavior. A sudden, quick plop sounding echoes from the direction of the pond. Ellen looks toward the water with a sudden sense of alarm. The children scream for help as they realize an accident has occurred. Panic ensues as the children shout that Damien has fallen into the water. A sudden, quick splash X2 sounding followed by a sudden, quick splash sounding occurs as Damien struggles in the pond. Eleanor urgently instructs the two children to return to the villa and fetch help while she prepares to rescue Damien, noting to herself that even a shallow pond is hazardous for young children. A sudden, quick run sounding follows as the two children rush off to find assistance as Eleanor ordered. A sudden, quick splash sounding follows as Eleanor dives into the pond, telling Damien he will be fine now, while a sudden, quick swish sounding occurs as she reaches out her hand. A sudden, quick splash sounding follows as Eleanor pulls Damien out of the water, reassuring the terrified boy that he is safe now, while a sudden, quick gulp sounding occurs as he catches his breath. Eleanor holds the trembling boy closely in the water as he asks to be excused for the incident. A sudden, quick tremble sounding follows as Eleanor reacts with wide-eyed shock to the boy's polite request. The two remain embraced amidst the shimmering water of the pond. A soft, quick waiting X2 sounding occurs as Eleanor leads the boy toward the shore, suggesting they get a warm bath and tea before noting that the Duke will soon arrive to fetch him. A soft, quick drip sounding followed by a soft, quick shake sounding occurs as Eleanor kneels to check if the boy is injured, feeling immensely relieved when he indicates he is unharmed. Eleanor offers to carry the boy inside so they can finally get out of the cold. A sudden, quick huff sounding followed by a sudden, quick run sounding occurs as a dark-haired man sprints through the garden toward them. A sudden, quick pant X2 sounding follows as the dark-haired man arrives, urgently calling out Damien's name while Eleanor watches from the ground. A soft, quick drip X2 sounding occurs as Damien stares up at the man, who returns the gaze with an intense and unreadable expression. A sudden, quick swish sounding follows as the man picks up the soaking wet boy, stating he needs to use the bathroom, while Eleanor promises to prepare it immediately and blames herself for being careless. A sudden, quick thud-thud sounding follows as the man carries the boy away, mentioning they will have a longer discussion later. Inside the ornate villa, the man stands by a maid while silent dialogue bubbles indicate instructions being given. A sudden, quick bowing sounding follows as the maid departs, leaving the man to rub his head in exhaustion as he reflects on how close the situation came to a disaster. The man stares off into the distance with a somber and pensive look. A sudden, quick "oh" sounding follows as Eleanor presents him with a bundle, prompting a polite thanks before a sudden, quick, startled sounding occurs as he looks back at her. Standing face to face, the man tells Eleanor that she is actually the one who needs the towel more than he does. A sudden, quick wipe sounding followed by a soft, quick, careful sounding occurs as the man gently dries Eleanor's face, though she insists she can handle the task herself. The man blushes slightly as he gives a brief, quiet agreement. A sudden, quick bows lightly sounding follows as the man suggests that Eleanor should change her wet clothes before doing anything else. Eleanor looks at him with a confused expression, questioning his mention of her clothes. A sudden, quick, startled sounding followed by a sudden, quick, flustered sounding occurs as a simplified Eleanor realizes her disheveled state, crying out in embarrassment. A sudden, quick running sounding follows as Eleanor flees the room, shouting that she will go wash up and prepare things right away. A soft, quick pew sounding follows as the man watches her exit, his expression softening as he exhales in relief. A sudden, quick slam sounding occurs from the direction of the washer. A sudden, quick ba-dump sounding follows as Eleanor sits in a warm bath, blaming herself for being careless with the children's safety. A soft, quick sniffle sounding, followed by a soft, quick worry sounding, occurs as Eleanor weeps, reflecting on her responsibility for the children in the villa. A soft, quick sniff-sniff sounding, followed by a sudden, quick splash sounding occurs as she washes her face, resolving to offer a proper apology to the Duke. Rejoining the Duke and Damien in the drawing room, a sudden, quick bowing sounding follows as Eleanor apologizes for her lack of attention, but the Duke insists that accidents happen when children play and tells her not to blame herself. The Duke states he has received enough apologies and suggests she rest at the castle since Damien is safe, punctuated by a sudden, quick swish. Damien sits quietly on the sofa with a distressed look on his face. The Duke asks Eleanor if his suggestion is acceptable, while she asks if the two of them will require separate guest rooms. A sudden, quick glance sounding follows as the Duke looks down at the young boy sitting near him. The Duke declares that one room is sufficient, explaining that Damien will need someone by his side after being so frightened. A soft, quick pew sounding follows as Damien clutches a teddy bear, looking up with wide purple eyes as the man sighs. A flashback reveals a portrait of a woman, accompanied by text stating that the boy's birth cost his mother her life. The scene shifts to a man sitting at a desk, noting that his father would frown every time he saw his mother's image reflected in his son. The flashback continues to a funeral, explaining that the father's choices ultimately led him to rest beside his beloved wife. A man shouts in anger, blaming the child for the death of both parents and worrying that his brother might be the next victim. Standing alone by a stone fence, the young boy reflects on how he made his family unhappy and decided to live as if he didn't exist, staying as far from his brother as possible. A close-up of the boy's teary eye follows as he thinks that his absence would be for the best of everyone involved. Back in the present, the Duke notes that Damien is still just a child who needs protection. The Duke looks away with a contemplative and slightly melancholy expression. Damien remains seated on the green chair, looking small and vulnerable in the large room. A close-up of Damien reveals a slight blush and a surprised expression. The trio remains in the quiet room as the conversation settles into a heavy silence. A sudden, quick shuff sounding follows as a bundle of clothes is handed over, with a voice explaining they are the largest size available, while the recipient expresses their gratitude. Eleanor asks Damien if his clothes fit comfortably, mentioning they belonged to Dwight when he was younger. A soft, quick clack sounding follows as the Duke observes the outfit, noting to himself that it seems a bit small. A sudden, quick ba-dump X2 sounding occurs as Eleanor looks at the Duke in shock, realizing she accidentally got him a size too small, while a sudden, quick oh no sounding follows. A soft, quick, tight X2 sounding occurs as the Duke's muscular build causes the fabric of the shirt to strain visibly. A soft, quick stretch sounding follows as the buttons of the shirt reach their limit across the Duke's broad chest. A sudden, quick shiver X3 sounding, followed by a soft, quick grip sounding, occurs as Eleanor covers her face in embarrassment while the young boy watches with a blush. A sudden, quick blush sounding follows as the Duke decides he will just wear a coat since he often sleeps like that anyway. The Duke apologizes for the clothing mishap while Eleanor offers to have a maid find him something else to wear. A soft, quick kiss sounding follows as Eleanor leans down to give Damien a gentle goodnight kiss on the forehead. Eleanor bids the Duke goodnight as she prepares to leave the two of them. The Duke stands alone in the room, a slight blush on his face as he stares into the distance. Inside the dimly lit room, the Duke asks the boy if he is cold or feeling any pain.
A soft, quick shake X2 sounding follows as Damien hides under the duvet while his brother watches him from across the bed.
A soft, quick grip sounding followed by a soft, quick murmur sounding occurs as Damien clutches his blanket and offers a quiet apology. The Duke reacts with visible shock, thinking that Damien has never initiated a conversation with him before. The Duke wonders what is on Damien's mind as the boy admits he should have been more careful because his actions caused others to suffer. A close-up of the Duke's eyes shows him listening intently to the young boy's heartfelt confession. A soft, quick shh sounding, followed by a sudden, quick cower sounding, occurs as the Duke tells Damien he doesn't need to feel guilty, though the boy remains hidden. A soft, quick bundle sounding occurs as Damien continues to huddle beneath the blankets in the quiet room. A sudden, quick freeze sounding follows as the Duke worries that his words might be causing the boy more pain than comfort. A memory of Eleanor surfaces, where she explained that progress is impossible if communication is blocked. The Duke wonders how Eleanor would handle this situation and what advice she would offer. A sudden, quick startle sounding follows as the Duke tells Damien that he is allowed to cause trouble as much as he wants. The Duke reassures Damien that there is absolutely no reason for him to feel guilty about anything. A soft, quick shh sounding follows as Damien slowly lowers the blanket, peering out with large, curious eyes at his brother. A sudden, quick beaming sounding follows as the Duke warns Damien to prioritize safety next time because today's incident was truly dangerous. A sudden, quick thud sounding follows as Damien blushes and politely agrees with his brother's instruction. The Duke tells Damien it's time for bed and wishes him sweet dreams as the grand villa stands quiet under the night sky. A soft, quick chirp sounding occurs as birds sing among the leafy branches under a clear blue morning sky. A sudden, quick sounding followed by a soft, quick grip sounding occurs as a maid tells someone they have been working too hard lately. Eleanor lies in bed with a feverish blush as the maid warns her that she was bound to get sick after falling into the water.
The maid strictly forbids Eleanor from getting out of bed for the day, and Eleanor weakly acknowledges the command.
A soft, quick nod sounding follows as the maid tells Eleanor to take a nap while she reheats some soup. Eleanor reflects on her recent overexertion and decides to stop thinking about work for once. A sudden, quick knock sounding follows as Eleanor gives permission for someone to enter her bedroom. A soft, quick creak sounding follows as a man peers through the partially open door. The Duke enters the room surrounded by a flurry of flower petals, asking if she is feeling better, while Eleanor looks on in surprise.
Eleanor sits up in bed, telling the Duke she is fine and welcoming him inside.
A soft, quick step sounding follows as the Duke walks closer, apologizing for missing her departure and explaining he only just learned of her illness.
Eleanor tells the Duke she is truly fine and asks if Damien is doing okay.
A sudden, quick, stunned sounding occurs as the Duke looks at Eleanor with a conflicted and intense expression.
Eleanor asks if something is on his mind before blaming herself for being terrible and not noticing that he had also fallen into the water.
The Duke pensively reflects on his own failures, thinking he should have offered his coat, a blanket, and checked her for injuries. A soft, quick grip sounding follows as the Duke closes his eyes in a moment of deep regret.
The Duke insists that he is actually the one at fault in this situation as the sun shines through the window. The Duke tells Eleanor he actually came to thank her, which leaves her looking completely surprised. The Duke explains that he needed to express his gratitude for her saving his brother to alleviate his own feelings of restlessness. The Duke stares ahead with a somber and focused look in the quiet room.
Eleanor realizes she didn't expect to thank you, but finds his sincere words deeply moving.
Eleanor asks the Duke if she can request a favor, to which he promises to provide anything she needs.
Eleanor recalls the trauma of the drowning incident and vows to prevent such a dangerous thing from ever happening again.
The Duke notes the importance of Academy martial arts and agrees with Eleanor's assessment of the situation.
A soft, quick sounding follows as Eleanor clasps her hands and excitedly asks if he can be the children's martial arts instructor. A sudden, quick, stunned sounding follows as the Duke realizes she wants him to teach, stammering that twice a week or even once a month would suffice. A sudden, quick thud sounding follows as Eleanor grabs his sleeve, asking if her request is too difficult for him to manage. A sudden, quick, urgent sounding occurs as Eleanor pleads with him, hoping his schedule can accommodate the lessons. A sudden, quick bang-bang sounding followed by a sudden, quick thud sounding occurs as the flustered Duke feels overwhelmed by her closeness, worrying the situation is getting out of hand while he lets out a sudden, quick sounding. A soft, quick thud sounding followed by a soft, quick thump sounding follows as the Duke admits his lack of confidence in dealing with children. A soft, quick thump sounding follows as Eleanor looks up at him with concern, wondering what is making the Duke so hesitant. The Duke's eyes sparkles with a new sense of determination. The Duke agrees to grant her wish on the condition that she must fulfill a wish of his in return. Eleanor remains seated on the bed, processing the Duke's unexpected counterproposal. A vibrant illustration features the main characters as the story moves forward. The Duke outlines the teaching schedule, while Eleanor promises to do anything within her power to fulfill his request.
A soft, quick cheer sounding followed by a soft, quick full sounding occurs as Eleanor beams with gratitude, thanking the Duke for his help.
Eleanor asks what the Duke requires from her, noticing he has become quite flustered.
A soft, quick gulp sounding followed by a soft, quick stutter sounding follows as the man struggles to find his words.
The Duke tells Eleanor he wants her to address him in the same informal manner the Marquis does. Eleanor looks back at him with a puzzled expression, asking for clarification. The Duke requests they use their first names, Keitel and Eleanor, with one another from now on. Eleanor stares at him in silence, completely caught off guard by the intimacy of his request. A soft, quick clatter sounding follows as Eleanor rides in a carriage, wondering why the Duke made informal naming a condition while Adrian asks what she is thinking. Eleanor reflects on how appearances can be deceiving, comparing the Duke to a spendthrift prince she once knew. A soft, quick stare sounding follows as the two companions sit in silence during the bumpy carriage ride. Eleanor admires Adrian's handsome features, noting she has known him since they were quite young. A soft, quick smile sounding follows as Adrian turns to her, asking what she wants to discuss. A soft, quick shrug sounding follows as Adrian explains he is working for her because he wants to, not because he was forced by his father. Adrian asks if he has been doing a good job as her secretary, leaving Eleanor momentarily speechless. A soft, quick grumble X2 sounding occurs in a flashback where Marquis Blake insists on hiring a secretary for the overworked Eleanor. Eleanor recalls being too busy with her textbooks to argue against the Marquis's suggestion. Eleanor's gaze falls upon her childhood friend as the memory of their new arrangement unfolds. A soft, quick smile sounding follows as Eleanor recalls her shock upon learning that Adrian was the newly appointed secretary. A soft, quick oh-ho-ho X2 sounding followed by a soft, quick gloomy sounding occurs as Eleanor remembers trying to overwhelm Adrian with work only for him to stay diligent. Eleanor realizes that her attempts to discourage Adrian only seem to motivate him further. Eleanor thinks of how Adrian would look after her, even covering her with a blanket while she slept. Eleanor admits she has grown used to his presence over the past week and has stopped trying to make him quit. A soft, quick smile sounding follows as Eleanor looks at Adrian, deciding that his handsome face makes his stubbornness tolerable. A soft, quick growl sounding follows as the carriage arrives at the city's large printing shop. Adrian informs Eleanor that they have arrived at their destination. A sudden, quick hand-over sounding follows as Adrian offers his hand to help Eleanor down from the carriage. Eleanor places her hand in his, accepting the polite gesture. A soft, quick oh-ah sounding, followed by a soft, quick pew sounding, occurs as the group enters the shop to check on the progress of their order. A soft, quick rustle sounding, followed by a soft, quick focus sounding occurs as the shop worker wonders if Adrian can manage the heavy workload alone. Adrian tells Eleanor to sit and rest while he handles the paperwork, but she wonders what she is supposed to do with herself. Adrian suggests she should just sit there and give orders like a thorny princess. A sudden, quick sit-down sounding follows as Eleanor takes a seat, jokingly asking if Adrian intends to be her prince or a messenger. Adrian replies that he will be anything she wants as long as she is happy with the arrangement. A soft, quick mutter sounding follows as Eleanor ponders what qualities she truly values in a person. A sudden, quick freeze sounding follows as Eleanor considers status and wealth before being asked about the importance of personality. Adrian asks her what she considers to be the most important trait in a partner. Eleanor stares in stunned silence. Sitting among towers of books, Eleanor wonders about the man's face while the light brown-haired man remains silent. The secretary looks away with a slight bead of sweat, wondering if she is really focused on his face. In a flashback, a crowd of women admires a handsome gentleman, as the narration notes that the Duke and Crown Prince are considered the Empire's second most handsome men. Under a bower of flowers, the dark-haired Keitel and the blonde Crown Prince stand regally, while a thought questions if they are to Eleanor's taste. Her attention is taken by a sudden, quick tap sounding, as Adrian asks what she thinks of his face, leaving her wondering why he's being so strange, despite all his usual compliments. A sudden, quick done sounding follows as Eleanor tells him his face is acceptable, leaving him looking completely crushed. Eleanor urges him to stop spacing out and finish the work so they can get dinner, and the secretary weakly agrees. The secretary looks down gloomily as he agrees to continue working. Eleanor stares at him, wondering if he is suffering from a case of late puberty. The scene shifts to the Grand Imperial Palace a few days later. A sudden, quick clop 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 sounding follows as a young boy runs toward a room where a sudden, quick knock knock sounding occurs. A sudden, quick scream sounding followed by a sudden, quick shout sounding occurs as the boy bursts in, yelling that Damien, the Duke, and the teacher are in big trouble. The blonde prince looks up from his desk in surprise. A moment of shocking realization. A sudden, quick click sounding, followed by a sudden, quick pant sounding, occurs as the boy leans on the desk while the prince reaches for his tea. The prince stares at his younger brother with wide eyes. The two brothers remain in the quiet, sunlit office. A soft, quick whoosh sounding follows as the prince asks for clarification on the situation.
A soft, quick drip-drip sounding follows as the prince sits in stunned silence with tea dripping from his mouth.
The boy runs off with a plate of cookies, claiming Damien said those words and leaving the rest to the prince.
The prince watches him leave, thinking the boy is smart enough to handle it himself.
The prince looks away, processing the scandalous news. A sudden, quick throb sounding occurs as the prince rubs his temples, realizing already asleep was likely taken out of context. A soft, quick glance sounding follows as the prince looks at a newspaper featuring Eleanor, suspecting Damien just repeated a phrase without context. A sudden, quick whack sounding marks a shift in the atmosphere. A vision of the shirtless Duke and Eleanor sleeping peacefully together in bed appears.
The prince looks at his hand, lost in thought.
A sudden, quick grimace sounding follows as the prince reflects on how his strict older cousin acts differently around her, secretly teasing people for fun. A beautiful portrait of Eleanor in a floral gown fills the frame.
The prince recalls walking with Eleanor and thinking she is a good person.
He remembers her laughing, though he feels a hint of underlying concern.
He thinks back to winking at her, deciding his interest was only moderate at the time. A soft, quick rustle sounding follows as the prince stands up, acknowledging that she is easy to be fond of.
A sudden, quick gnash sounding follows as the prince wonders why he feels so uneasy.
The prince thinks about how a royal life allows no mistakes, yet Eleanor represents something new and interesting.
He sees himself bound by the chains of responsibility, while his other side smiles, seeking relief from his duties.
He recalls how his care for Eleanor began after reading articles and hearing rumors about her.
He remembers their direct meetings and how he couldn't stop thinking about her even while working.
A soft, quick chuckle sounding follows as the prince decides to tell a joke to make her blush next time.
He realizes that being with her makes him truly smile. He reflects on how even casual banter with her feels sweet.
He looks down, thinking he shouldn't have been concerned about anything.
A soft, quick grip sounding follows as the prince admits his heart is boiling and he no longer wants to laugh. A soft, quick squish sounding follows as he walks through the library, admitting he is being swept away. A soft, quick creak sounding follows as he opens a door, thinking about being a good friend.
He walks into the grand room, internally stating that he didn't want her. He continues walking, realizing he is being swept away in an instinctive and emotional way. Paperwork on a desk details emergency reserves and upcoming interviews.
Eleanor sighs in exasperation at the prospect of more interviews. As she wilts from exhaustion, Adrian approaches with concern, offering to fetch her something to drink. The light brown-haired man watches her intently, feeling guilty for how hard she's been pushing herself lately. A soft, quick snore sounding, followed by a soft, quick tired sounding, occurs as Eleanor drifts off, leaving Adrian to marvel at her dedication. A soft, quick swish sounding follows as Adrian gently drapes a blanket over her sleeping form. Adrian gazes at her with a tender smile, whispering a quiet wish for her to sleep well.
In a floral-filled memory, a young Eleanor excitedly tells a childhood friend that he looks like a handsome magazine model.
The young Eleanor continues her advice, telling him that milk and early bedtimes are the keys to growing up fast. The young girl beams with a bright, innocent smile.
Adrian reflects on how he was easily manipulated into calling her sis despite only a small age gap.
He remembers how he used to hide in terror from her persistent jokes about marriage. The two children share a joyful moment, running through a field of golden flowers together.
Back in the present, Adrian remains by her side, lost in the quiet intimacy of the moment.
A sudden, quick collapse sounding follows as Adrian rests his head near her, admitting his past cowardice regarding his feelings.
A sudden, quick furrow sounding follows as Adrian realizes that running away didn't help clarify his heart at all.
He recalls a formal encounter, standing before the woman he has known his whole life.
The two share a steady gaze in a sun-drenched room. A soft, quick whisper sounding follows as Adrian watches over the sleeping Eleanor, hoping he hasn't missed his chance.
The scene shifts to the grand exterior of the estate as the press continues to buzz about Eleanor's recent activities. A soft, quick rustle sounding follows as Adrian reads the paper while Eleanor fumes over the sensationalist headlines about her private life. A sudden, quick fuming sounding, followed by a soft, quick ha-ha sounding, occurs as Eleanor rants about the lack of actual business news in the gossip columns.
A newspaper clipping teases an ongoing love triangle, adding fuel to the public fire.
Another headline focuses on the business success of the blonde woman, further exposing her life to the public. Eleanor admits that while she expected attention from the ads, the actual reaction has been far more intense than she imagined. Adrian asks if she intends to publicly address the misunderstandings caused by the rumors. A soft, quick pondering sounding follows as the secretary considers the best path forward. He questions whether a public statement is even necessary at this stage. Adrian points out the undeniable advertising success, noting the massive surge in orders following the media frenzy. A soft, quick ha sounding follows as Eleanor shares her excitement about the new investors interested in her work. A soft, quick wait sounding follows as Adrian scolds her for working through the night while she cheekily defends her busy schedule. A soft, quick sounding follows as Adrian reviews a contract, finding the conditions surprisingly fair and reasonable. A soft, quick yeah sounding follows as Eleanor discusses an upcoming dinner invitation, and Adrian asks if she is comfortable attending alone. Eleanor assures him with a confident look that there is no need to worry.
Eleanor meets with two formal gentlemen outside, thanking them for the meal and promising to consider their proposal.
A soft, quick squeak sounding followed by a soft, quick slip sounding occurs as Eleanor boards a carriage, feeling the weight of exhaustion finally hitting her. A soft, quick knock-knock sounding follows as the carriage returns to a bustling courtyard, and Eleanor realizes she has one more task to handle. A sudden, quick open door sounding follows as Eleanor bursts into a room, asking if she can enter. Eleanor halts in surprise as she finds a blonde man partially undressed, quickly promising not to peek while he finishes changing. A soft, quick smile sounding follows as Dwight explains the press rumors about the Duke's interest and the investor's attempts to gain favor through her. Eleanor looks back at him in stunned silence. She wonders if the investment was truly about business potential or just a way to curry favor with Kydell. A soft, quick, weary sounding follows as Dwight advises her not to view the proposal as a bribe, since it is a fair deal. A sudden, quick sits-down sounding follows as Dwight explains that investors wouldn't take a risk without business potential, regardless of the Duke. Dwight emphasizes that the investment will be a massive boon for the Blake family.
Eleanor slowly concedes that his reasoning makes perfect sense.
The two sit together in the quiet grandeur of the drawing room. A sudden, quick thump-thump sounding follows as a few days pass and a young boy runs happily through the palace halls. Eleanor notes Damien's good mood, and Kydell agrees that the boy seems particularly spirited today. A soft, quick whoosh sounding follows as Kydell turns to Eleanor, suggesting they take a brief walk together. Eleanor and Kydell take a quiet stroll through the sunlit palace gardens. A soft, quick, hesitant sounding follows as Kydell looks at Eleanor with a serious expression. Kydell mentions hearing about her meeting with Nicholas Fielding and their investment offer. Eleanor confirms the meeting, but reveals that she ultimately declined their proposal. As they walk, Eleanor explains she's waiting for a better offer, while Kydell asks if the conditions were insufficient. Eleanor admits she's worried about causing trouble for Kydell's family, but he dismisses her concerns immediately. Kydell shifts his approach, deciding to ask his question in a slightly different way. Eleanor looks up at him with wide, expectant eyes, waiting for him to continue. A soft, quick glance sounding follows as Eleanor looks away shyly while a bead of sweat rolls down her face. Kydell notes that people may try to use her to gain favor, though Eleanor casually shrugs off the idea. A sudden, quick response sounding follows as Kydell tells her to use his name, leaving Eleanor completely stunned. Kydell insists that she use his name to her advantage, promising to handle any potential consequences himself. A soft, quick whisper sounding follows as Eleanor stands in silence, processing his surprisingly generous offer. Eleanor expresses her gratitude but remains firm in her decision to decline the Fielding investment proposal. A soft, quick rustle sounding follows as Eleanor explains her desire to be judged solely on her own merits. A soft, quick sparkle sounding follows as Eleanor proudly declares her personal belief in self-reliance. Kydell laughs and agrees with her perspective while Eleanor stands by his side. A soft, quick puff sounding follows as Eleanor prepares to let out a bright, joyful laugh. Eleanor bursts into hearty laughter, her earlier tension completely vanishing in the sunny garden. The blonde woman continues to laugh with pure delight, her face glowing with genuine happiness. Eleanor giggles softly while Kydell watches her with a calm, intent gaze. A sudden, quick gulp sounding follows as Kydell feels a wave of dizziness from watching her laugh. Eleanor suggests heading back inside since the children are waiting, and Kydell softly agrees. A sudden, quick frown sounding follows as Kydell wonders if his lightheadedness is from the walk or from Eleanor herself. Eleanor notices his slight stumble and kindly warns him to be careful. A soft, quick whoosh sounding follows as the scene focuses on the subtle details of the moment. A sudden, quick thump sounding follows as Kydell's heart skips a beat while looking at his companion. A sudden, quick thump sounding follows as Kydell stares at Eleanor Everett, his feelings becoming impossible to ignore. A soft, quick thump-thump sounding follows as Kydell's face flushes red from the intensity of his emotions. A voice informs His Excellency that a specific delivery has arrived and was brought to him immediately. The grand architecture of the ducal estate stands tall against the bright afternoon sky. A soft, quick rustle sounding follows as Kydell takes a document from his butler, who is confused by the sudden request. A soft, quick, startled sounding follows as Kydell dismisses the butler's questions, stating he must go pick up Damien. A soft, quick shalala sounding follows as Kydell scolds the butler for being idle while he focuses on his work. A soft, quick bow sounding follows as the butler leaves, internally admitting he no longer understands the Duke's behavior. The butler reflects on how the Duke has always lived a very disciplined and blunt life until recently. Kydell looks over papers while the butler wonders exactly when things began to change so drastically. The butler notes that the Duke now spends hours away and dresses as if attending a grand banquet. A sudden, quick talk sounding follows as the butler internally screams that his lord has completely changed. A soft, quick click sounding follows as Kydell examines a set of complex mathematical and business papers. A soft, quick mumble sounding follows as Kydell reflects on the novelty of buying something he technically already owns. Kydell decides that the purchase is for educational purposes and personal satisfaction. A sudden, quick collection sounding follows as the documents are highlighted as a special and separate item. A soft, quick, slight chuckle sounding follows as Kydell admits it feels amazing to focus on each individual problem. A soft, quick mumble sounding follows as Kydell remains deeply engrossed in the paperwork at his desk. Keitel mutters to himself about buying a safe to protect these papers alongside his interview scraps.
A carriage rolls through the busy palace courtyard, surrounded by people going about their day.
A soft, quick sparkle sounding follows as Damien sits excitedly in the carriage, heading toward his destination.
Keitel watches the young boy with a calm, observant look as they travel together.
A soft, quick click sounding follows as Keitel notes how much Damien truly enjoys being with his teacher.
The blonde woman welcomes Damien back with a warm and cheerful greeting as they meet outside.
A sudden, quick lift sounding followed by a soft, quick startled sounding occurs as Keitel picks up Damien while Eleanor addresses him formally as the Duke. Eleanor looks at her companion with a puzzled and questioning expression.
The blonde woman lets out a soft realization as she remembers something important. Eleanor corrects herself by using his name, Keitel, and he responds with a polite greeting in return.
Eleanor watches him with a serious and contemplative profile as they stand in the sunlit garden.
A soft, quick smile sounding follows as Eleanor's expression softens into a warm and pleasant look.
Damien runs toward the palace entrance while the two adults watch his energetic departure from a distance. The young boy suddenly stops and glances back over his shoulder with a curious expression.
Damien stares back at them for a long moment, his thoughts seemingly far away. Keitel observes that Eleanor seems to be heading somewhere today, and she responds with a hesitant murmur.
A soft, quick, splendid sounding followed by a soft, quick, sparkle sounding occurs as Keitel bashfully notes his lack of preparation before complimenting Eleanor's beauty.
Eleanor lets out a sudden, quick pft sounding as she reacts with amusement to his unexpected and direct flattery.
A soft, quick sounding follows as Eleanor thanks him for the kind words, even if they were just polite formalities. Keitel insists with a serious look that he is being completely genuine about his feelings for her. The scene focuses on the subtle beauty of Eleanor's green eyes framed by her glasses.
Keitel finishes his thought by declaring that she is truly beautiful without any flaw. A soft, quick rustle sounding occurs twice in the quiet grandeur of the library as pages are turned.
A soft, quick sparkle sounding follows as the white-haired boy excitedly asks Eleanor which ice cream flavor she likes the most.
Eleanor admits she prefers vanilla, and the boy notes that his brother shares the same favorite flavor.
Eleanor reflects on how children often ask questions unrelated to the lesson and how she must be understanding as an adult.
The white-haired boy offers to find out his brother's favorite color for Eleanor, but she quickly declines the offer. A soft, quick whisper sounding occurs twice as the pink-haired girl tells the boy to ask such things only when it's just the two of them.
A sudden, quick ba-bam sounding follows as Eleanor encourages Ina, who then asks what her ideal type of person is.
A soft, quick sounding follows as Eleanor ponders the question, describing her ideal partner as someone handsome, wealthy, and kind. A soft, quick, swiftly sounding occurs 3 times as the children excitedly claim that their own family members match Eleanor's ideal description perfectly.
A soft, quick smack sounding occurs twice as Eleanor claps her hands to stop the chatting, asking if sitting still is boring for them.
The white-haired boy agrees enthusiastically as Eleanor announces they will have an outdoor martial arts class every 2 weeks.
The pink-haired girl asks with wide eyes if Eleanor will be the one teaching them martial arts.
Eleanor explains that she lacks physical strength and reveals that Duke Keitel will take charge of the physical education lessons instead.
A sudden, quick boom sounding follows as Damien is completely stunned to learn that his brother will be their teacher.
A soft, quick sparkle sounding follows as the girl expresses her jealousy while the white-haired boy insists his own brother has much to teach as well.
Eleanor instructs everyone to bring their activity clothes for the next session, and the children respond with a unified shout of agreement.
Eleanor watches her students with a gentle and satisfied smile.
A soft, quick ha-ha sounding follows as Eleanor's smile turns slightly strained and awkward.
Eleanor lets out a weary sigh, wondering to herself why she suddenly feels so uneasy about the upcoming classes.
A sudden, quick thud sounding follows as the pink-haired girl rushes into her uncle's office, pleading for him to become her music teacher.
The blonde man looks up from his desk with a confused and surprised expression. The young girl begs her uncle to take them to museums and concerts so he can spend time sitting cozy with Eleanor.
The uncle reflects on how he has never taught children before, though the idea of spending time with Eleanor is very appealing to him.
He expresses his hesitation about the responsibility of teaching someone else.
A soft, quick, tearful sounding occurs twice as Ina looks up at her uncle with big, watery eyes and a pleading look.
A soft, quick gulp sounding follows as the girl asks if he would still refuse her even after seeing her cry.
The man gives in and suggests that they should first speak with Eleanor to see what she thinks of the idea.
The pink-haired girl celebrates her victory and happily bids her uncle goodbye until their next class together.
A notification screen appears, declaring that the mission has been successfully cleared.
A soft, quick surprise sounding follows as the man remains at his desk, still processing the sudden and intense conversation.
A soft, quick knock-knock sounding follows as a hand taps against a door to request entry. Damien stands by a large window and tells the visitor to come inside. A sudden, quick bang sounding follows as Damien bursts into the room, excitedly calling out for his brother.
A sudden, quick thud-thud-thud sounding follows as the blonde man sitting at his desk praises Luke for knowing how to knock today.
A soft, quick crunch sounding follows as the white-haired boy notices his brother looks very tired and offers him something to eat.
The blonde man smiles gently and asks what the boy came there to ask today.
A soft, quick startled sounding follows as the man is surprised when Luke mentions Damien's name. A sudden, quick grind teeth sounding follows as the man expresses frustration that he has to deal with Keitel again. A soft, quick snip sounding, followed by a soft, quick crunch sounding, occurring 3 times follows as the boy reveals that Keitel is their physical education teacher. The blonde man looks surprised and asks if Keitel is directly teaching the boy despite his dislike of showing his face. The man reflects on how his cousin isn't just a recruit but seems to be attracting good feelings in his new role. A sudden, quick, done sounding follows as the white-haired boy bluntly asks his brother if there is anything he is actually good at. A soft, quick crunch sounding occurring twice follows as the man encourages the boy to think again because there must be something he can do. The blonde man stares ahead with a blank and slightly shell-shocked expression. The man internally laments that because he isn't good at anything at all, he feels completely useless. A sudden, quick snort sounding follows as the man covers his face in a moment of self-deprecating laughter. The man feels deeply frustrated at the thought of suddenly becoming a fool who can't do anything at all. The young boy excitedly suggests dancing as a possible skill, which catches his brother off guard. The blonde man considers teaching the children how to dance himself, noting his strength is at the top of Valium. Amidst a floral vision of Eleanor Everett, the man wonders if there is a better way to interact with her. A soft, quick pew sounding follows as the man decides that he can indeed help the situation. A soft, quick wow sounding follows as Luke excitedly promises to trust him, while the man suggests first speaking to the teacher. The two of them sit quietly in the grand office, each contemplating the new plan. A soft, quick clink sounding follows as the man holds his tea, reflecting on how his identity as a prince is sometimes a hindrance. The man considers that if Eleanor has ambitions, it would be good, as she showed clear astonishment just hearing about the prince. He reflects on his competition with Keitel and Adrian and decides the only way to win is to bring Eleanor to the palace more often. The man focuses on creating opportunities for interaction, believing a formal social class will provide a valid reason. He sits back on the sofa, determined not to miss a chance to get closer to her without needing to go outside. A soft, quick snip sounding occurring twice follows as the man takes his pen to the paper to begin writing. The man addresses a letter to the outstanding businesswoman Eleanor Everett, complimenting the beauty of the night sky. The blonde woman reads the letter and wonders if there is any hidden meaning behind the unexpected gift and the kind words. In the letter, the man explains that he tried hard not to exploit his power when registering for the full class. He expresses his desire to be a worthy student and mentions he heard Keitel is in charge of a practical subject. A soft, quick snip sounding follows as Eleanor looks shocked while reading the man's request to teach the children how to dance. The man boasts in his letter that no one can beat him in social etiquette and asks for her opinion. He proposes a plan to hold the dancing lessons once a week at the palace. The man reflects on his decision to write the letter, believing the palace would be an ideal educational environment for the kids. A soft, quick snip sounding occurring twice follows as he playfully asks in his writing if he can call her by her first name. Eleanor acknowledges that it is great he is not using his power for personal gain and admits she knows he is a good dancer. The letter concludes with the man expressing his hope that she will make a wise decision and be willing to accept his proposal. The man looks forward to a prompt response while Eleanor contemplates the letter with a serious and thoughtful gaze. A soft, quick pew sounding follows as Eleanor touches her head in thought, really hoping to hear back from him soon. The scene shifts to the Grand Palace the next day as rain falls steadily from the gray sky. A soft, quick snip sounding follows as a hand presents an elegant green envelope sealed with red wax. A soft, quick ha sounding follows as the man receives the reply, which acknowledges that the prince is eagerly waiting for her response. The man sits in his chair and reacts with a soft ha while looking over the formal reply addressed to them. Eleanor stands with her arms crossed, her thoughts captured in her reply about his proper use of power and excellent dancing skills. She admits in her writing that they might have different thoughts about their closeness, but grants him permission to use the library. A soft, quick giggle sounding occurring twice follows as the man reads her note about him calling her name whenever he wishes. A sudden, quick laugh sounding follows as the man smiles with genuine delight, clearly pleased with Eleanor's sincere and playful reply. A soft, quick whoosh sounding followed by a soft, quick drip sounding follows as a carriage moves through the rain-soaked streets. The man continues writing to clever Eleanor, mentioning his dislike of the rain and asking about her own feelings on it. He finishes his thought by expressing a simple wish to see her wave to him on her way to the library. The blonde man smiles subtly while looking away. Eleanor's elegant handwritten letter arrives on green paper. A soft, quick clap sounding follows as a hand secures the letter. A soft, quick laugh sounding follows as the blonde man smiles. The blonde man walks confidently through the garden. A soft, quick rustle sounding follows as he runs a hand through his hair. The letter expresses her many curiosities while noting that he still hasn't answered her first question. The man reflects on how she might find his curiosities trivial as she listens. The man thanks her for replying to his bothersome letters while she stands before him. Eleanor stands alone in the library. A soft, quick chuckle sounding follows as she addresses the prince who enjoys handwritten letters. Eleanor admits she loves rainy days and finding calm in this sound of falling water. She expresses her preference for autumn and winter over the sluggish feeling of hot weather. Eleanor finds summer beautiful and reveals her favorite book is the poetry collection of Tirk. A sudden, quick done sounding follows as she slumps at her desk in exhaustion. She feels happy to be a source of joy for him through her writing. Eleanor decides that receiving and responding to his letters isn't actually troublesome at all. The blonde man looks out from the palace window while reading.
The man stands in the library reflecting on Eleanor's words.
A soft, quick clinking sounding follows as a drawer full of letters is opened.
Eleanor observes that the prince is a truly strange person. She notes that her correspondence with the crown prince is both burdensome and fun. A soft, quick tapping sounding occurs twice as Eleanor walks away happily.
A man with light brown hair asks if she slept well.
The man questions why she arrived so early as they sit together in the library.
Eleanor is overwhelmed by memories of the prince's intense and constant desire to see her.
A soft, quick clap sounding follows as she abruptly stops him from finishing his sentence. A soft, quick, gently sounding follows as the man watches her with a teasing smile. A soft, quick haw sounding occurs twice as he asks what she expected him to say this time.
A soft, quick scheme sounding follows as he realizes she feels flustered by her own thoughts. Eleanor stares ahead with wide eyes.
A sudden, quick shout sounding follows as a soft, quick crackling sounding occurs twice while she yells in frustration.
The man laughs while she jokingly declares that P is fired.
He argues that her dismissal is unfair while she remains annoyed by his presence. A childhood memory shows how their shared vision has evolved since they were young. A soft, quick hum sounding follows as he questions why his presence is unreasonable.
The man suggests she will change her mind after seeing his new results.
A sudden, quick fanfare sounding follows as a soft, quick swish sounding occurs while gold coins appear. A report highlights the impressive sales revenue and conversion rates from the early bird sale.
A sudden, quick clap sounding follows as Eleanor celebrates the massive financial success.
Eleanor admits she will forgive him this time because of the significant earnings. He notes that the market trends are even better than they anticipated.
The man finds her adorable despite her earlier annoyance.
A small Eleanor hums happily while sitting on the sofa.
The man asks about her spending plans.
Eleanor looks thoughtful regarding her goals. A soft, quick puff sounding follows as she explains her plan to save for retirement.
Eleanor imagines a future of luxury and relaxation on a sunny beach.
A soft, quick sighing sounding follows as she breathes contentedly. A soft, quick slap sounding follows as she refuses to spend any money of him.
The blonde woman sits at her desk while the man with light brown hair watches her intently. The man with light brown hair looks on with a calm expression.
Eleanor feels grateful for the man's help in running her business smoothly and vows to repay his kindness.
Eleanor smilingly encourages the man to speak his mind as she approaches him from behind. The man with light brown hair stares ahead with a stunned and wide-eyed expression.
A soft, quick smile sounding follows as the man suggests they have a private dinner together, which leaves Eleanor questioning if he will regret the invitation later. The man insists he won't regret inviting her because her long presence by his side is what he wants most, while Eleanor wonders if he finds her boring since she spends all her time on work.
The man smiles warmly while assuring her that spending time with her doesn't seem boring at all.
Eleanor looks forward with a look of quiet realization. The scene shifts to several days later in a grand garden as the narration explains that Kydell has decided to begin training the children.
A sudden, quick commotion sounding occurring twice follows as the three children chatter excitedly together in the garden.
Eleanor observes that Demir seems comfortable in this environment and is doing well with his responses. Eleanor credits the man with black hair for the boy's progress and asks if he is still silent at home, to which he replies that it will take time to improve.
A soft, quick glances secretly sounding follows as Eleanor finds herself thinking the man looks particularly handsome today.
A soft, quick gulp sounding followed by a soft, quick rustle sounding follows as Eleanor tries to remain composed while observing him. A sudden, quick huh sounding followed by a soft, quick swish sounding follows as Eleanor worries if she was too obvious while they walk together. A soft, quick ah sounding follows as Kydell asks about horseback riding, prompting Eleanor to admit she failed to learn it despite her intentions. Eleanor reflects on her failed lessons with Dwight, wondering if the problem was his teaching style or her own lack of progress. A soft, quick stop sounding follows as the pair suddenly halts their walk. Kydell offers to personally teach her how to ride if she is willing to learn. A soft, quick thump-thump sounding occurring twice follows as Eleanor notices his eyes look like those of a puppy eager for a walk. A soft, quick sounding follows as Eleanor stares at him while imagining a little black puppy beside him. Eleanor quickly agrees to his proposal with an excited and flustered smile. The dark-haired man looks away with a slight blush on his face. A soft, quick sneaking glances sounding occurring twice follows as Eleanor nervously wonders if her outfit looks strange while Kydell watches her. Eleanor asks if her comfortable attire for gym class looks weird, feeling a bit self-conscious about her preparation. A soft, quick, immediately sounding follows as Kydell assures her that her outfit is absolutely perfect, leaving Eleanor surprised by his directness. A sudden, quick blush sounding follows as Eleanor's face turns bright red from his compliment. A soft, quick thump-thump sounding occurring twice followed by a soft, quick step sounding occurring twice follows as Eleanor is overwhelmed by how straightforward he is while he points toward their destination. A soft, quick nod sounding follows as Eleanor confirms that the open space is suitable for the children's lessons since there is no official training ground. Kydell remains silent as he looks out over the landscape. A sudden, quick boom-boom sounding follows as Kydell mentions that his workshop has a professional training area. A sudden, quick, suddenly sounding follows as Eleanor wonders if the knights are the reason he prefers the workshop's equipment and grounds. Chibi Eleanor reacts with a look of pure astonishment. A vision shows a professional training hall filled with weapons and equipment, suggesting a more formal environment for learning.
A sudden, quick boom-boom sounding follows as Kydell confirms he has a yard at his home when asked. Eleanor feels dejected by the thought of not being able to learn in a place like this, while Kydell agrees that it's awful.
Kydell describes a comfortable seating area and a huge curtain at the workshop, wondering if she wants to invite him over.
Eleanor realizes something as she notices the man's ear has turned bright red. Eleanor questions the common perception of the man being a cold and emotionless person. Eleanor finds him surprisingly easygoing and hopes they can visit the workshop together in the future. A sudden, quick freeze sounding follows as Kydell stops in his tracks upon hearing that the Crown Prince will also be teaching at the palace. Eleanor explains that the Crown Prince is helping the kids and that they will all be visiting the palace library together. A soft, quick smile sounding follows as Eleanor beams while saying how thankful they should be for the opportunity. Kydell looks skeptical as Eleanor notes how much the prince seems to care about Luke and the children's education. A soft, quick ho-ho sounding follows as Kydell internally fumes, labeling the prince a scoundrel for playing games to get closer to Eleanor. A soft, quick swish-swish sounding followed by a sudden, quick jerk sounding follows as Kydell recalls being distracted by Count Blake while the prince used his serpent's tongue to charm Eleanor. A soft, quick, gloomy sounding followed by a soft, quick thud-thud sounding follows as Kydell feels frustrated by his new role as a guardian opposing the palace lessons. A sudden, quick jerk sounding follows as Eleanor announces the start of the lesson, leaving Kydell looking shell-shocked. Eleanor leads the happy children away while Kydell collapses on the ground, lamenting that things are becoming quite serious. The narration reflects on the fragile nature of the three children and the difficulty of the task ahead for Damien. The dark-haired man reflects on the weight of responsibility that comes with his reckless choice born of jealousy. A sudden, quick boom-boom sounding follows as Kydell stands stiffly before Eleanor and the three expectant children. Eleanor holds Lucas closely while observing that Kydell is as rigid as a piece of wood. A soft, quick nod sounding followed by a soft, quick then sounding follows as Eleanor asks for his help with a warm smile.
Kydell takes charge of the training, commanding the children to stay tense and focus their strength.
A soft, quick creak sounding follows as the children overcome their initial tension and begin to follow the lessons well. Kydell looks slightly overwhelmed as he continues the rigorous training session. Lucas swings his wooden sword with joy, happy to finally be outdoors. Sienna demonstrates great enthusiasm as she follows the training instructions perfectly. Damien shyly smiles at his brother while pretending to remain stoic during the lesson. A soft, quick rustle sounding occurring twice follows as Eleanor relaxes on a picnic blanket, thanking Kydell for the peaceful moment. Eleanor suddenly realizes an important date is approaching. Chibi Eleanor remembers that her birthday is near, having completely forgotten it due to her busy schedule. The narration notes that while her birthday wasn't special in her past life, it carries weight for Eleanor Everett. Eleanor contrasts her simple past birthdays with the lively, gift-filled celebrations she now receives in the mansion. A memory shows a young blonde girl laughing with pure delight during an annual birthday party. Eleanor wonders about this year's preparations and feels certain that Adrian will attend. Eleanor watches from a distance as Kydell continues to instruct the children. Kydell remains focused on the lesson as he guides the children through their exercises. Eleanor stares at the scene with a look of quiet consideration. A sudden, quick flash sounding followed by a sudden, quick ah sounding follows as Eleanor wonders if she should invite Kydell to her birthday. Eleanor reminds herself that despite her relaxation, she still maintains a parental responsibility toward the children. She considers the importance of maintaining professional distances to avoid complications in work-related relationships. A soft, quick sigh sounding follows as Kydell rubs his head, looking weary from the day's events. Kydell looks away with a troubled expression. Eleanor reacts with sudden surprise to her own train of thought. Eleanor remains silent as she tries to process her growing confusion. A soft, quick grin sounding occurring twice, followed by a soft, quick pause sounding follows as Eleanor cheers for the kids. Eleanor watches the group from afar, questioning if the distance is making it hard to hear them. Chibi Eleanor enthusiastically cheers for everyone to do their best. Kydell glances back at her with a questioning look. The dark-haired man hides a small, genuine smile behind his hand. Kydell's expression softens as he watches Eleanor's supportive display. Eleanor continues to watch the training session with interest. A soft, quick chuckle sounding follows as Kydell is amused by her behavior. A soft, quick wave sounding follows as Eleanor waves to him while wondering about the nature of their relationship. A soft, quick clink sounding follows as the scene shifts to a restaurant where Adrian offers to buy her an expensive meal. Adrian reminisces about their childhood trips to this restaurant with Dwight and their plan to eat everything on the menu. The pair sits together in a grand, sunlit dining hall, enjoying their private dinner. A soft, quick clink sounding follows as the steak is carefully sliced. A soft, quick swish sounding follows as Adrian serves a piece of meat to Eleanor. A sudden, quick splutter sounding follows as Eleanor laughs while Adrian recalls how he used to cut her meat when they were kids. A sepia-toned memory depicts a young Adrian cutting food for a young Eleanor at the dinner table. Adrian smiles warmly as he notes how she used to pretend to be an adult. A soft, quick fume sounding follows as Eleanor loudly denies his claims while Adrian laughs at her reaction. Adrian reminds her of a childhood promise to marry him, labeling her a trickster for having no sense of responsibility. A soft, quick mutter sounding followed by a soft, quick ha-ha sounding follows as the chibi pair bickers over their past memories. A soft, quick tilt sounding follows as Adrian watches her with a look of deep affection. Adrian stares at Eleanor intently and decides to take the bait, finishing their meal together. Eleanor remains silent and thoughtful. She calls his name softly. Adrian notes her meaningful tone. Adrian wishes to be incurs. A sudden, quick grip sounding follows as he clenches his fist. The man looks down shyly, wishing the walk would last. Fearing their current comfort ends, Eleanor begins to speak. Adrian's heart shatters comically, defending his sincerity against doubt. Hesitation fills the young man. A sudden, quick pop sounding follows as Eleanor interrupts him, insisting he eats while warm. A soft, quick munch sounding occurring twice follows as he eats. Nervous laughter fills his heart. Adrian praises her professional success while finding her lack of social awareness comically ironic. A sudden, quick press sounding follows as Eleanor views his teasing as a curse. Smugness overcomes the little man. Outrage at his cheeky behavior. Dinner concludes at the table. A soft, quick pat sounding occurring twice follows as he prepares the carriage. A soft, quick tap sounding follows as a waiter approaches. Learning the bill is settled, Adrian paid and left early, confused by his secret payment. A soft, quick step sounding occurring twice follows as she runs outside. Eleanor demands to know why he paid while he insists on treating her, proudly insisting on her independence. Regretting his limited romantic plan, Adrian looks off into distance, turning back to Fiancée, declaring his sincerity once more, anticipating her anxious step back. A sudden, quick freeze sounding follows as he spots a rival, noticing an unexpected visitor approaching. Shocked by the new arrival, Keitel makes a grand appearance. Adrian grits his teeth annoyed. Keitel addresses the young viscount. A stiff, formal greeting follows, passing through on the path. A sudden, quick flinch sounding follows as Keitel feels an unpleasant tension. Adrian glares at the intruder. A sudden, quick jerk sounding follows as the men face off. Keitel maintains a stern gaze, calling out to her directly, turning toward him with surprise. Keitel internally strategizes a way to pull her away from the viscount. Keitel remains speechless. Eleanor notices his awkward silence. Adrian watches with abasement. Keitel glares at his rival. A sudden realization strikes him. Keitel recalls a previous offer per leading, reflecting on her changing appearance. Focused on a difficult choice, Keitel requests the guardian interview. He demands the meeting happen immediately, repeating the urgent request. Eleanor reacts with genuine shock. Adrian questions the sudden urgency, while Keitel insists there is no more time to wait. A telltale flush colors his hair. Keitel asks if it would be difficult for her. Eleanor pauses to consider. Eleanor agrees to the meeting and asks Adrian for his consent since they have his carriage. Standing together in the street, Keitel promises to take her home after their interview. Adrian fumes at the Duke's intrusion. A carriage waits nearby. Keitel appears confident. Hidden sweat reveals his inner anxiety. Eleanor questions the location for their private talk while Keitel confirms his readiness. Concerned about the public setting, Keitel realizes he is too recognizable, fearing the attention of the crowd. Eleanor asks if he has a plan in mind. Keitel remains silent and embarrassed. He offers a simple apology. Eleanor realizes he acted impulsively and wonders where to take such a conspicuous man. A sudden realization strikes Eleanor. Keitel looks at her curiously. They arrive at a hidden tea room where Keitel expresses surprise at finding such a place in the capital, and Eleanor notes its unique interior. Excited for the delicious sweets, Keitel asks how she found the place and notes it is not somewhere one would easily stumble upon. Eleanor reveals the prince invited her previously, which catches Keitel off guard. Jealousy flares over his rivals. Keitel reflects on the prince's hidden motives regarding the children and his bad feeling about the palace lessons. Trusting in the boy's perfection, finding comfort in his stability, Eleanor asks for the real reason behind the sudden interview and if anything is wrong at the estate. Keitel asks about Damien's social life, while Eleanor reassures him of the boy's popularity and leadership among his friends. Eleanor glows while describing the boy's maturity and newfound happiness. High view of the table. Keitel hesitates to speak further. Eleanor asks for the truth about his concerns and promises not to be angry. Keitel apologizes for his poor attempt at lying. Eleanor asks about his earlier behavior. His embarrassment becomes physically obvious. Eleanor laughs softly as she considers the possibility of teasing the man across from her a bit more. Smiling warmly, the blonde woman says yes before repeating the word as a confused question. The dark-haired man admits he likely was and prefaces his next thought by saying he isn't sure how it will sound to her. He confesses he disliked seeing her alone with the young marquis and that the thought of her chatting face-to-face with the crown prince bothers him, as it is simply not pleasant for him. Rubbing his head in embarrassment, the man stammers out an affirmation of her name. The man stares ahead as his feelings are identified clearly as jealousy. Eleanor looks on with wide eyes as she finally realizes the nature of his behavior was clearly jealousy. Blushing deeply, she wonders if Keitel actually likes her and questions what could have caused such feelings. During a moment of self-reflection, the blonde woman dismisses the idea as ridiculous before realizing that Keitel isn't the type to joke about such things. She turns away, visibly flustered by the sudden realization. The man sits across from her and asks himself if his suspicions could truly be correct. A heavy, awkward silence fills the room as the two sit together in quiet contemplation. Eleanor remains frozen on the sofa with a bright red blush spreading across her face. The tense atmosphere continues to build as they remain seated in the ornate sitting room. The man apologizes again for troubling her with his earlier display of jealousy. He adds an apology for making her uncomfortable, to which she quickly replies that it is really okay. Little Eleanor jumps in surprise as a sudden, quick sounding occurs. She frantically gulps down her tea as a sudden, quick gulp sounding occurs twice. Looking away, she remarks that the air in the room suddenly feels a bit warm to her. The man watches her with a calm, steady gaze. A small, soft smile plays on the man's face as he watches her reaction. Eleanor stares intently as she thinks about how things are only this way in this specific place. Looking out through the window, the narration notes that it seems as if summer has arrived a little early this year. The scene shifts to the Grand Palace, where an instructor introduces Marianne, a new student who will be joining them for dance lessons. A silver-haired girl named Marianne Bassett introduces herself with a polite greeting to the group. Damien excitedly raises his hand and shouts that he wants to be Marianne's partner for the lesson. The pink-haired girl asks to partner with Damien, while the dark-haired boy agrees that he doesn't mind the arrangement. Damien offers to help Marianne with anything she doesn't know, then asks if her home in the Roten district is near the palace, only to learn it is an hour away by carriage. The pink-haired girl tells the boy that Damien won't understand the distance even if he is told the truth. Damien shouts at the pink-haired girl to be quiet and insists he wasn't talking to her before grabbing Marianne's hand. The pink-haired girl whispers to Marianne that she should stay as far away from Damien as possible because he is not normal. The blonde crown prince arrives and asks if the two children are still fighting despite his hope they had made up. The crown prince stands tall in his ornate white and maroon royal uniform. The group of children and Eleanor stand together in the large sunlit hall of the palace. Damien runs toward the prince, complaining that the girl keeps picking fights, causing the prince to respond with a confused hum. Damien sticks his tongue out at the pink-haired girl while the prince watches the children bicker. Eleanor offers a formal greeting to the crown prince, who tells her that there is no need for such formality between them. Eleanor looks around the hall and asks why His Highness is there all alone. He explains that he finished his schedule early and came straight there, noting that the pianist should arrive soon. The prince asks if someone else was expected to come to the lesson. Eleanor reacts with shock and reminds him that it is a dance lesson, so a partner is absolutely required. She asks what they are supposed to do since he arrived without anyone to dance with. Finding her reaction cute, the prince mentions that he is indeed looking for a partner. The prince steps closer to the blonde woman with a focused expression. He leans in toward her as a sudden, quick step sounding occurs. The blonde man watches her with a confident, knowing gaze as he stands close. He gestures playfully as he speaks to her. The man's eyes sparkle as he keeps his focus entirely on Eleanor. Eleanor recoils in horror, loudly insisting there is no way she can be his partner because she is a terrible dancer. She continues to object, claiming his feet will be ruined and that she doesn't want to be charged with injuring royalty, while the prince laughs and says he is skilled enough to handle it. The blonde man promises her that his feet will be safe while the blonde woman questions the certainty of his claim. A chibi scene shows the cat-eared prince acting stubbornly as the woman reflects on his likely difficult childhood. The grand hall echoes with the sound of music as the formal dance lesson officially begins. Standing in the center of the ornate ballroom, the man encourages Eleanor to find her composer. As they move together, he instructs her to focus on his eyes rather than the floor. The woman feels overwhelmed by the intense pressure of what was supposed to be a simple group lesson. The couple twirls across the floor as the children practice their steps in the background. Eleanor is struck by how his every movement perfectly mirrors a textbook example of high society grace. Her internal panic spikes as she repeatedly steps on his shoes, making her want to cry in embarrassment. The man notes that the children are learning quickly despite the chaos of the lesson. A sudden, sharp stomp sounding occurs as her heel lands directly on his foot. He winces at the pain while she defiantly tells him to stop laughing at her purposeful clumsiness. Looking up at him, she asks if something is bothering him. The man's expression shifts into a pensive, slightly distant gaze as they continue their dance. In the prince's study, a butler informs his master of the woman's late-night visit to Duke Valentine's estate. Recalling the report from the previous night, he considers the implications of her actions. A sense of unease lingers as he assumes something unpleasant must have occurred. She reacts with confusion to his sudden change in tone. He leans in closer, mentioning that he is aware of her recent trip to Amekinia. Her eyes widen in shock at his unexpected knowledge of her private business. The prince narrows his gaze, specifying that he knows she was accompanied by the duke. He emphasizes the late hour of their meeting, casting a shadow over the conversation. Eleanor questions how he could possibly know such details about her evening. He confidently reminds her that everything happening within his domain is under his constant watch. The weight of his observation leaves her feeling completely exposed. The scene shifts briefly to Keitel, who sits alone with a brooding and troubled expression. Eleanor questions why a man of his stature would ever find interest in someone like her. A deep blush colors her face as she struggles to suppress her memories of the Duke. The prince reflects on the obvious truth of the situation, while Eleanor asks if there's a problem. In a playful moment, the man considers how easily the Duke's feelings were laid bare. He dismisses her worry, but admits that the current state of affairs is not pleasing to him. He offers a brief, clipped response that suggests the subject is closed. The man points out her visible relief and questions if she is being overly sensitive. He reminds her of his own previous admission before expressing his annoyance at her bringing another man into the picture. The sudden mention of a confession leaves her completely stunned and breathless. She looks away, her mind racing as she tries to process his bold statement. Shifting the topic, the man asks about the rabbit doll he gave her, which she describes as uniquely unattractive. He jokes that the gift is failing its intended purpose while she shares a small, genuine smile. The prince's gaze becomes serious once again as he focuses entirely on the woman in his arms. A warm, soft smile returns to his face, illuminating the room around them. He admits that if she intended to provoke his jealousy, her plan was remarkably effective. In a moment of vulnerability, the man confesses that he is completely smitten with her. The children whisper amongst themselves, speculating on the romantic nature of the prince's earlier words. The boy wonders if the teacher has a hidden affection for their family. Damien asks for details, but the pink-haired girl claims she was told nothing at all. The boy questions his brother's silence, while the girl wonders why he isn't the focus of attention. The pink-haired girl explains that the prince's feelings are perfectly obvious to anyone watching. She points out the subtle physical cues in their posture that reveal the prince's assertive nature. The couple stands close together, the prince leaning in with a look of pure devotion. The girl concludes that it is only natural for someone to want to be close to the person they love. Damien and the crown prince exchange flustered looks as a sudden, quick rustle sounding occurs twice. Marianne observes that the prince seems incredibly meticulous and admirable compared to Damien. The chibi crown prince glows with joy at the compliment, while Marianne wonders why he ignored the insult hidden within the praise as a sudden, quick humph sounding occurs. Marianne notes that the prince must have calculated the dance lessons specifically to get close to their teacher as a sudden, quick nod sounding occurs. Keitel stands thoughtfully in a garden filled with blooming white roses. The prince focuses intently on teaching the teacher while they move together on the ballroom floor. Damien explains that the intense focus is necessary because the teacher is a terrible dancer as a sudden, quick snap sounding occurs. Marianne explains that she understands these romantic tactics because she reads an abundance of romance novels. Damien considers sending a collection of romance books to his brother as a gift as a sudden, quick boom sounding occurs. The children agree that they must keep a closer watch on the adults as a sudden, quick nod sounding occurs twice. Eleanor reflects on how her life seems to be stagnating despite the recent events. Keitel considers how a single spark can ignite a massive change before one even realizes it. Conflicting images of Keitel and Eleanor reveal the growing tension and unspoken words between them. The prince continues to charm Eleanor, making their interaction feel like a theatrical performance full of twists. With a bright smile, Eleanor asks the children if they enjoyed their dance lesson. The three children stare back at her with wide, unblinking eyes and blank expressions. Birds chirp outside the grand spires of the imperial palace as a sudden, quick chirp sounding occurs 3 times. Keitel finds a bright pink book adorned with a heart sitting prominently on his desk. The book's title promises a heart-pounding recipe to make one's love come true. The Duke stares at the object in total bewilderment. Keitel asks his butler, Jonathan, if he was the one who left the indecent item on his desk. Jonathan clarifies that he saw Damien leaving the office earlier that day. The Duke reaches for the volume as a sudden, quick rustle sounding occurs. Jonathan points out that Keitel is still holding the book he just labeled as strange and indecent. Finding himself exposed, the Duke curtly orders his butler to leave the room. A close-up reveals the book's title once more as a sudden, quick click sounding occurs. Keitel wonders why Damien would ever leave such a specific type of book for him as a sudden, quick grit sounding occurs. Upon opening the cover, he is greeted by a text asking if the reader is perhaps lovesick as a sudden, quick flip sounding occurs. The Duke looks pensive, trying to convince himself he isn't lovesick despite Eleanor's image appearing in his mind. The book seems to anticipate his denial, questioning if a specific face just came to his mind as a sudden, quick throb sounding occurs. The text continues to predict that his love life is likely facing some difficult challenges. It goes on to ask if his special someone is completely unaware of his true feelings as a sudden, quick focus sounding occurs. Keitel is left stunned by how accurately the book describes his current situation as a sudden, quick ding sounding occurs. An ornate illustration of a romantic embrace serves as a poignant reminder of his deepest desires. At the palace, Prince Lucas is alerted to a strange situation as a sudden, quick chirp sounding occurs. A book titled Romantic Games, The Art of Seduction sparkles on his table as a sudden, quick bam sounding occurs. The butler informs Lucas that Damien had these embarrassing books delivered specifically for him as a sudden, quick thud sounding occurs. Lucas questions if it's too early for someone like Damien to be looking at such subversive material. The butler reveals that the boy apparently borrowed every single romance-themed book from the Imperial Library. Lucas realizes that his brother is determined to bring him and Eleanor together as a sudden, quick flip sounding occurs. He finds Damien's cunning move to be quite impressive as a sudden, quick chuckle sounding occurs. Despite his reservations, the prince decides to at least skim through the books since his brother put in the effort.
When the butler questions his interest, Lucas quickly changes his mind and orders them all to be taken away.
He finds the idea of a younger brother caring for him in this way to be incredibly cute, as a sudden, quick laugh sounding occurs.
The butler resolves to step up his own efforts to assist his master's romantic endeavors as a sudden, quick hum sounding occurs. Lucas appreciates the immense support he receives from his brother.
Looking at the books, he decides he can no longer just sit back and do nothing.
The scene shifts to the grand exterior of the estate, where Kydell walks through the gardens.
Eleanor watches him from an upper window with a soft, thoughtful gaze.
In a quiet moment, Kydell notices Eleanor's exhaustion and encourages her to rest until her carriage arrives.
The blonde woman's attention is drawn by the sudden, quick stomp sounding of footsteps on the patterned floor.
A brown leather travel bag sits open on the floor, revealing a red book tucked inside.
Eleanor sits on a plush green sofa and considers that she didn't realize Lien enjoyed reading romance novels.
She dismisses the story as a typical cliché about childhood friends who eventually fall for one another. While examining the pages, she finds a sprig of leaves serving as a bookmark as a sudden, quick tap sounding occurs. A framed passage in the book describes how Enoch's heart began to harbor strange impulses whenever he looked at Rosia. The text continues to explain that the shift in his feelings occurred whenever Rosia smiled brightly at him. The novel illustrates how Enoch's reaction was purely instinctive, feeling like a fierce pillar of fire rising in his chest. Eleanor looks away from the book and considers the possibility that Lien will never truly know her thoughts. She holds the book close and reflects on her own past as a sudden, quick tap sounding occurs. A close-up of the red novel emphasizes the weight of the memories it has triggered for her.
Her mind drifts back to an unusually scorching summer when she was 17, as a sudden, quick gust sounding carries leaves through the air.
A younger Eleanor sits on a picnic blanket and hears a request to bring food to Dewey and Lien. A woman in a white dress carries a basket and notes that boys never realize they are hungry when they are playing. The woman explains that the boys will eventually return when they are starving, while Eleanor agrees to go find them. The young girl walks off grumpily with the sudden quick drag sounding of her footsteps, thinking the boys are a total hassle. Sunlight filters through the lush green canopy of a serene and quiet forest. In a nearby river, two boys splash in the water while challenging each other to a race. Eleanor arrives at the riverbank and decides to just read her book until the boys finally decide to come out. The scene transitions between the soft grass of the bank and the sparkling water of the river. The boys engage in a breath-holding contest beneath the surface as a sudden, quick splash sounding occurs. Eleanor watches the water and begins to worry that one of them has stayed under for far too long. The boys suddenly burst out of the water, gasping for air and laughing. The brown-haired boy wipes water from his face as a sudden, quick shine sounding emphasizes his wet skin. He stands in the shallow water, shirtless and glowing in the afternoon light. Eleanor feels a sudden heat in her face and questions what is wrong with her reaction. She sits on the blanket and tries to hide her blushing face as a sudden, quick throb sounding echoes her heartbeat. The blonde-haired boy, Lien, greets her cheerfully and tells her she should have called out to them sooner. Both boys rush toward the food basket, admitting they are absolutely starving after their swim. Eleanor remains frozen on the blanket, unable to look away from the brown-haired boy. Her eyes are wide with a mix of shock and a new, confusing awareness. The brown-haired boy looks back at her with a calm and curious expression. Eleanor snaps out of her daze and questions why he is just standing there staring at her as a sudden, quick thud sounding occurs. He points out that she is currently sitting on his shirt, causing her to jump up in embarrassment. As Lien gets dressed in the background, the brown-haired boy observes that Eleanor's face has turned bright red. He leans in closer to check on her, asking if she is perhaps feeling sick from the heat. She looks down and tries to convince herself that she has simply gotten a bad sunburn. He reaches out his hand toward her face, his expression filled with genuine concern. His hands gently cup her cheeks as a sudden, quick rustle sounding occurs. Eleanor's breath hitches as she experiences a sudden, quick throb sounding from her racing heart. The moment of physical contact creates an intense and heavy silence between the two teenagers. He notes that her cheeks feel incredibly hot to the touch. Eleanor pulls away slightly and points out that his hands are surprisingly cold from the river water. Reflecting on the chaos of hormones, Eleanor blames Dwight for everything while he wonders what he could have possibly done. Outside the window, a pair of birds perches together as a sudden, quick chirp sounding echoes twice. Back in the present, Eleanor reflects that she stopped making jokes about marriage after that day because of the confusing emotions. She concludes that the feeling was deeper than friendship but shallower than love, much like the characters in the novel. A man with light brown hair enters the room and tells Eleanor it is time for them to leave. He smiles warmly and mentions that he truly enjoys spending time watching over the children. Marianne watches from the carriage window and excitedly points out that the falling flower petals look just like snow. Lucas agrees the scenery is beautiful while Damien and Sienna discuss the legendary promise of catching a falling cherry blossom petal. Lucas warns that catching a petal is harder than it looks as their carriage passes a blooming tree. Eleanor is startled when the carriage suddenly comes to a halt, prompting Lucas to wonder why they have stopped. Lucas steps out and explains that while the library is a short walk away, the carriage would have been much faster. Lucas reveals they have received official permission to enter the palace grounds due to his connection with the crown prince.
Eleanor examines an ornate seal and realizes she is already quite familiar with the prestigious emblem.
Looking at the seal causes a striking and formal image of Prince Lucas to flash through Eleanor's mind.
Eleanor has a panicked, blushing reaction to the revelation, leaving Lucas completely confused by her sudden outburst.
Lucas remains skeptical of her denials as he watches her flustered attempt to hide her true feelings.
Eleanor stands frozen by the carriage, her mind racing after the shocking realization she just had.
Lucas adjusts his hat and admits he feels a bit disappointed by her reaction. Little Luke peeks out from behind Lucas before happily rushing toward Eleanor. Lucas explains he stopped the carriage simply to enjoy the fine weather and the beautiful scenery of the road. Lucas invites Eleanor to join him for a stroll, suggesting it would be a pleasant change of pace. Eleanor looks at Lucas with a mix of curiosity and slight hesitation.
A close-up of Eleanor's eye captures her focused and pondering expression.
Looking at the scenic city streets, Eleanor finally agrees that it is a perfect day for a walk. The three children walk ahead together, their laughter filling the air as they enjoy the spring day. Lucas notes how well the group gets along, while Eleanor admits their close bond sometimes makes her teaching job a challenge. Lucas asks if the younger children still fight often, but Eleanor reassures him that their arguments are quickly forgotten.
Damien comes running back toward the adults, prompting Lucas to ask if something is wrong.
Damien approaches them with a secret, determined smile on his young face. The young boy proudly reveals a single, delicate cherry blossom petal resting in the palm of his hand.
Eleanor is touched by the gesture, questioning if the precious petal is meant as a gift for her.
Eleanor beams with joy as she accepts the thoughtful present from Damien.
Damien is filled with a sense of triumph, believing he has given the best gift possible.
Eleanor expresses her gratitude by giving Damien a gentle kiss on the cheek. Damien skips away in a daze of happiness, feeling like a true romantic hero.
Eleanor reflects on how rewarding her job is, despite the challenges of managing three energetic children.
Lucas shares a meaningful look with Eleanor and wholeheartedly agrees with her sentiment. Lucas mentions that he also has something he has been wanting to give to her. He presents Eleanor with a royal seal, noting that she should already be well acquainted with it. Eleanor is confused and points out that she already possesses a seal of this kind. Lucas explains that this particular seal is unique, piquing Eleanor's curiosity. He reveals that this version is specifically engraved with his own name. Eleanor feels a surge of anxiety, wondering why he would give such an important item to her instead of someone more prominent. Lucas mentions that while Keitel has his own, this one is a more personal token from his family. Lucas insists that he will give the seal to whomever he chooses, playfully suggesting that having two is better than one. Despite now holding 2 of the 5 most powerful cards in the Empire, Eleanor remains focused on the sentimental value of the gifts. Eleanor looks at the items in her hands, finding the honor overwhelming but the gesture sincere. Lucas looks pensive, realizing he has picked up a few useful romantic tactics from his younger brother's example. Eleanor thinks back to the legend about catching petals and finding love, finding the idea to be incredibly cute. As Eleanor walks ahead, Lucas follows her with a soft and admiring gaze. Lucas focuses intently on a falling petal, his expression revealing his newfound belief in the old legend. The group continues their peaceful journey through the park, surrounded by fountains and blooming trees. In a comical moment, a chibi Lucas struggles with all his might to catch a falling petal to test the legend. Inside the library, Eleanor instructs the children to choose one book from the Academy's required reading list. The children cheer and race toward the shelves to find their next story. Eleanor feels safe enough to explore the library on her own while the children are busy. Eleanor's wandering leads her to a restricted area where a guard promptly stops her, forcing her to apologize for her mistake. Eleanor is granted entry to the restricted area by 2 guards in uniform, apologizing for her mistake before moving forward. Eleanor enters the grand, sprawling library and looks around with wide eyes. Blushing slightly, Eleanor takes in the impressive sights of the prestigious collection. The library is revealed as a massive, ornate hall filled with endless rows of books and warm, glowing lights. Eleanor admires the luxury and vintage charm of the room before something catches her attention. Eleanor stands before a reading desk where a large book lies open. She realizes the book contains the reading records for Prince Lucas and finds it fascinating to explore. Eleanor notes that his literary taste differs significantly from her preference for poetry and novels. A chibi Eleanor browses through a list of stiff subjects like politics and military strategy, finding them quite dry as a sudden, quick rustle sounding occurs twice. Her expression shifts to confusion as she discovers a title that seems out of place on the list. Eleanor is stunned to find a romantic play titled The Art of Seduction and wonders what it could be doing there. She becomes incredibly flustered and blushes deeply, overwhelmed by the scandalous discovery. Looking around nervously, the chibi Eleanor feels a sudden, intense curiosity to find a specific story about a countess. She's intrigued by the title and cannot help but want to see more. Eleanor successfully locates a book titled The Passionate Love of a Countess on the high shelves. She takes the book down and carefully begins to peek at its contents as a sudden, quick slide sounding occurs. Eleanor is shocked to see an illustration of a romantic embrace and realizes Lucas has been exploring this genre lately. A sudden, quick scuff sounding occurs as a foot in a dark boot steps onto the library floor.
Prince Lucas arrives and calls Eleanor's name, startling her as she tries to hide the scandalous book, while a sudden, quick thud sounding occurs. Eleanor asks if he has finished his business, noting that he looks quite out of breath as a sudden, quick huff sounding occurs twice. Lucas explains he was just exercising, but admits he suddenly thought of something important and rushed over. Lucas appears nervous and breaks into a sweat while Eleanor watches him with a surprised expression. Eleanor steps closer to him, causing the prince to blush intensely as a sudden, quick rustle sounding occurs. She looks up at him with a sweet and innocent smile, framed by delicate flowers. Lucas gulps as he makes two critical realizations about the current situation. He first notes how utterly charming Eleanor looks, admiring her eyes and her freckles. His second realization is a sense of impending doom as he notices Eleanor's knowing expression regarding his reading list as a sudden, quick puff sounding occurs twice. Eleanor directly asks if his sudden appearance is due to the romantic book she is currently holding. Panicked, Lucas urgently requests that she hand the book over to him immediately as a sudden, quick rush sounding occurs. Lucas tries to claim it is all a misunderstanding as a sudden, quick tap sounding occurs, while Eleanor finds it funny that he is so bothered by a simple novel. Lucas realizes she has already read parts of it, and Eleanor teasingly admits she may have seen a few pages. He continues to insist that her interpretation is wrong and asks for the book back once more. Lucas uses his charm and a gentle smile to plead with her to return the item as a sudden, quick grin sounding occurs. Eleanor agrees to return the book since he is asking so politely, handing the volume back to him. She quietly observes him, thinking it is a shame she did not tease him more since he is rarely this flustered. Eleanor suddenly pauses as a new thought enters her mind. She realizes the coincidence that she herself is a countess with the same surname as the story's protagonist. Eleanor beams with a bright and happy smile as a sudden, quick shimmer sounding occurs. Lucas feels the situation is unfair while Eleanor checks on him with a concerned look. Lucas tries to explain as a sudden, quick mumble sounding occurs twice, insisting his tastes are actually very traditional. Eleanor watches him with a skeptical and curious gaze while he continues his frantic explanation. He lists serious subjects like blacksmithing and astronomy to prove his studious nature. Lucas remains lost in his explanation of his interests, set against a celestial background of stars and planets. A butler interrupts to inform the prince it is time to depart, and Lucas prepares to leave the library. Lucas tells Eleanor they will continue their conversation through letters as she gives him a friendly nod. Eleanor asks about the young boy's whereabouts, and the pink-haired girl, Enna, replies that he is using the restroom. Feeling suspicious, Eleanor decides to investigate as a sudden, quick thud sounding occurs twice from her footsteps. She catches the young boy, little Luke, hiding in the library, causing him to jolt in surprise. The boy zooms away as Eleanor commands him to stop immediately. Little Luke sprints through the library to avoid reading boring books, laughing while Eleanor chases after him to bring him back to class. Eleanor catches the boy with a sudden, quick reach sounding as he stops with a sudden, quick halt sounding. She holds little Luke by the shoulders, noticing his face has gone pale with worry as she asks if he is all right. Little Luke signals for silence while they watch two men walking through the grand library. Eleanor frets over the boy's distress with a sudden, quick step sounding nearby, and he responds with a series of quiet nods. The men walk with a sudden, quick step sounding as they gossip about the second prince associating with the Duke's brother. Eleanor listens intently as the men cruelly mock the heritage of the kitchen-maid's son. Luke turns away, his face blushing deeply from the painful insults he overheard. Eleanor reaches out with a sudden, soft swish sounding to place a comforting hand on the boy's head. She is appalled by their words and thinks to herself that she must do something about this situation. Eleanor's hand tightens with a sudden, firm grip sounding as she pulls the boy closer. She asks Luke if he wants to stay in this hidden spot for a while longer, and he responds with a small nod. A sudden, quick step sounding occurs twice as the men finally walk away. Eleanor confirms that the men are gone while Luke remains sitting on the floor. She asks if he knows the men, and Luke explains that he is aware they do not like him. Luke gives a quiet shrug as he admits many people feel that way, causing Eleanor to sigh and call the men fools. The young boy looks up at her with large, expressive eyes. Eleanor reassures him that the prince cherishes him, but Luke believes Ismael is simply too nice to everyone. As he recalls Prince Ismael with a sudden, quick clasp sounding, Luke notes how smart and beloved the older man is. Eleanor tells him that he is also kind and smart, admitting she has plenty of her own critics as well. Luke is shocked by her claim, insisting that everyone he knows loves her dearly. Eleanor admits she is telling the truth, reflecting on how different her current life is from her past experiences. She recalls her past life as a sudden, quick schwa sounding of rain occurs, remembering the pain of nasty rumors and hurtful words. Luke begins to fidget as he asks what she did when she was treated so poorly. Eleanor explains she used to cry in her blankets, though Luke believes crying is a sign of weakness. Over a view of the palace, she narrates that crying is human, and the true strength is in living well afterward. Luke sniffs as a sudden, quick drip sounding occurs from a tear, asking with curiosity what happens next. Eleanor performs a sudden, quick wipe sounding on his cheek, reminding him that he is precious and lovely. She tells him that cruel words should never make him forget his own worth. Luke asks how to remember, and Eleanor tells him to repeat positive words to himself daily amidst a sudden, quick rustle and wish sounding. She smiles warmly at him, insisting that he is simply impossible not to love. Eleanor expresses that having him in her life brings her immense joy and gratitude. Let's go back now. Luke lunges forward with a sudden, quick squeeze sounding as he hugs Eleanor around the waist. Eleanor smiles brightly as she embraces the boy with both arms. Luke pulls away with a sudden, quick swish sounding, looking much more confident. Eleanor gives a gentle smile. The pair walks back toward the library where the other children are waiting. Damien and Anna look up from their reading as Luke waves to them. A grand building stands under a clear sky as a letter begins with a greeting to Eleanor. A hand with a quill makes a sudden, quick scribble and scritch sounding while writing on a piece of parchment. I'm writing this letter first thing. Prince Ismail sits at his desk, considering the letter to be a promising start to his day. He sighs while writing that the romantic book she saw was actually something Lucas borrowed using his name. He insists he cannot have her getting the wrong idea about him at all. The Grand Academy under blue skies.
Eleanor reads the signature line identifying the writer as her misunderstood friend.
She stands dumbfounded as she realizes the letter is signed by Ismail Biden Pontius de Bellium. A new letter with a sudden, quick swish sounding is prepared for his supposedly wronged highness. An envelope flutters in the air. Eleanor shouts with a sudden, quick growl sounding as she scolds him for blaming his 9-year-old brother for the book. Eleanor angrily scolds Prince Ismail, insisting he should be ashamed for misjudging an innocent child. A nervous Ismail begins writing a letter addressed to the very skeptical Lady Eleanor. Ismail signs off his letter with a flourish, claiming he is still protesting her earlier accusations. Eleanor responds to the prince, suggesting they both act like adults and laugh off the book incident. She transitions the conversation to ask about young Luke, mentioning their recent enjoyable trip to a concert. Eleanor pauses for a moment of quiet, content reflection on her recent outings with the children. She notes that Luke's grades have improved significantly and suggests Ismail shower the boy with praise. Eleanor emphasizes that while spending time with friends is good, quality family time is truly essential. She gently asks Ismail if he is aware of just how much Luke truly adores him. Young Luke offers a bright and innocent smile as he is framed by beautiful, soft pink roses. Eleanor concludes by requesting that the prince give the boy plenty of his personal attention. Ismail writes back about how Lucas keeps raiding his office and swiping every single one of his snacks. He agrees that a picnic is a wonderful idea and asks Eleanor for her help in arranging it. Ismail proposes they all go together for the children's sake and teases Eleanor about her taste in books. He signs his final letter, playfully admitting he is dying of curiosity regarding her favorite reading material. Eleanor, sitting outdoors, firmly tells the prince that the conversation about her books is officially over. As a sudden, quick wish sounding occurs, Eleanor writes that both Keitel and Adrian have agreed to the picnic. Ismail is privately upset that after 40 letters, she still calls him by his formal title while using names for others. Eleanor prepares to send a carriage to the prince on the following Monday morning. She smiles to herself, finding the prince to be an amusing man as she finishes her correspondence. On the day of the picnic, Keitel arrives and warmly greets Eleanor at the palace. Keitel offers to carry the heavy picnic basket, noting that her mother clearly overprepared for the event. Eleanor jokes that her mother always loads her up with excessive amounts of food for any outing. After a sudden, quick chuckle sounding, Keitel asks where the other children are hiding. Eleanor looks up at him with a bright smile, truly appreciative of his help with the heavy supplies. Keitel asks if Lord Adrian is joining them, and Eleanor explains he is running late due to work. As a sudden, quick mutter sounding occurs, Keitel expresses a sense of disappointment that Adrian is not there yet. While Keitel looms behind them, Anna excitedly begs Eleanor to sit next to her inside the carriage. The ornate white carriage begins its journey through the busy streets of the city. A sudden, loud squeal sounding erupts from Anna as she shouts about how excited she is for the trip. Demian and Anna talk about how they miss Luke, agreeing that he is both loud and funny. Eleanor hears a sudden, quick chatter sounding and realizes that Demian is unusually talkative today. Eleanor suddenly feels a strange sensation, wondering if someone in the carriage is watching her. Keitel's intense blue eye is shown in close-up as he focuses his gaze on his companion. Keitel sits composed and quiet on the bench directly opposite Eleanor. The two adults sit in a heavy, awkward silence as the carriage continues its path. Keitel looks away, his expression remaining perfectly calm and unreadable. Eleanor stares out toward the side, feeling the weight of the Duke's silent presence. Eleanor's face suddenly feels a sudden, intense flush sounding as she becomes increasingly flustered. Anna remains momentarily quiet as she observes the tension between the two adults. After a sudden, quick squeeze sounding, Anna asks Eleanor what activities they will do at the picnic. The carriage hits a bump in the road, causing a sudden, quick rattle sounding to shake the passengers. Eleanor is thrown forward with a sudden, quick whip and grab sounding as she loses her balance. As a sudden, quick pew sounding occurs, Keitel checks to see if she is injured from the jolt. Eleanor's hand lands with a sudden, firm press sounding directly onto Keitel's pare. She keeps her hand there with a firm press, sounding momentarily stunned by the sudden physical contact. A sudden, quick clasp sounding occurs as Keitel blushes deeply and stammers for words. The Duke's face is completely overtaken by a red blush as he looks down in embarrassment. Eleanor pulls away in wide-eyed shock, her mouth open as she realizes where she touched him. Eleanor's face breaks into a sudden, deep flush sounding as she gasps in pure mortification. As the carriage rolls through the city square, the atmosphere becomes chaotic as everyone begins apologizing to one another at once. Sienna waves excitedly at the picnic site, calling out to Luke and asking why it took them so long to arrive. Luke and the other children enjoy the beautiful weather as they exchange cheerful greetings in the middle of the grassy field. Prince Ismail walks across the sunlit field toward the children, murmuring quietly as he approaches the group. The blonde prince offers a friendly wave as he joins the party under the clear blue sky. Eleanor and Kydell arrive at the picnic spot where Ismail mentions that he and Luke have been bored while waiting and are now starving for lunch. Eleanor smiles as she mentions packing a small meal for everyone, causing Kydell to flinch in unexpected surprise. Kydell finds the description of a little something quite humorous as he struggles under the weight of two massive, heavy baskets. As the food is set out on a blanket, Eleanor gives a firm reminder for everyone to wash their hands before they start eating. The children are amazed by the variety of treats, marveling at the cake, fruit, and sandwiches laid out before them. While the group eats, Ismail asks Eleanor what activities she has planned for their time together today. Eleanor beams with a bright smile, enthusiastically promising that they have a long list of fun things to accomplish. The group settles into their meal as Ismail enjoys a sandwich and Kydell rummages through the picnic supplies. Eleanor gives the brown ball a sudden firm squeeze sounding as she prepares it for their upcoming game. Ismail watches her with a playful smile, suggesting that they might be a bit too old for such simple games. Kydell looks at Eleanor with a serious expression, asking if she intends to participate in the activities alongside them. Eleanor explains that the day is focused on the children, leading a curious Ismail to ask who else she could possibly mean. She makes it clear that the men are expected to join in the fun as well, catching them both off guard. The two men quickly agree to her terms as Eleanor smiles warmly, pleased by their sudden cooperation.
Ismail pouts about how Kydell seems awkward with the children, while Eleanor encourages both men to continue building their relationships with the boys.
The prince feels a bit slighted that Eleanor calls the Duke by his first name while remaining strictly formal with him. After a sudden, quick scratch sounding on the back of his head, Kydell admits that forming these bonds is quite a challenge. Eleanor reassures them both that playing together is the best way to grow closer and tells them not to worry so much. Ismail looks annoyed when Eleanor notes how much brighter Demian has become, questioning her observation with a skeptical look. As a sudden, quick whip sounding occurs, the two men begin a grumpy tug of war over the brown ball. Ismail lets out a sudden, heavy sigh, sounding as he asks if Eleanor really intends to stay out of the game and just supervise. The conversation shifts to their next activity, which involves a treasure hunt planned for after the ballgame. Eleanor emphasizes that the success of the hunt depends entirely on the men's participation and enthusiasm. She suggests they come up with thoughtful presents that will genuinely make the children happy. Ismail considers giving them candy, but Eleanor insists on choosing something more special and meaningful. Kydell remains silent for a moment as he gives the ball a sudden, firm clutch sounding. Eleanor looks surprised when the men suggest she should be part of the treasure hunt as well. She begins to ponder the idea, realizing that giving out her own prizes might actually be an enjoyable experience. With a sudden quick flinch sounding, Kydell worries that he doesn't have anything impressive enough to offer as a reward. Ismail smiles happily as the group continues to discuss their plans for the afternoon. After a sudden, quick nod sounding, Kydell agrees that their current plan for the treasure hunt is a good one. Luke calls out to Sienna as the children begin to drift away from the picnic blanket toward the field. Sienna's face lights up with a sudden bright sparkle sounding as she prepares for the excitement of the game. As a sudden quick swish sounding occurs, Adrian arrives and offers a formal greeting to both the prince and the duke. Adrian explains that he was delayed by urgent matters at his estate and offers his apologies for the late arrival. Ismail greets him with a sudden sharp dun sounding and playfully notes that he actually arrived earlier than expected. With a sudden heavy dun sounding, Kydell suggests that Adrian didn't need to come if his work was so demanding. Eleanor rushes forward to offer Adrian an apple, insisting that he eat something before starting the strenuous activities. As a sudden, quick trickle sounding of water is heard nearby, Ismail mentions the creek but warns that it's too cold for waiting. Eleanor feels a sudden, quick tap sounding on her shoulder as the men discuss whether to throw or kick the ball for their game. Ismail asks for Lord Adrian's opinion on the game, and Adrian calmly states that he is fine with whatever they choose. Eleanor takes charge and decides on dodgeball, explaining the rules of teams and throwing the ball to the group. The men all agree that her suggestion is a good one and prepare to begin the match. Eleanor stands before the three men and gives them a firm instruction to play nicely with one another. Eleanor is left completely dumbfounded as she realizes the children have run off to play their own game without her. The children all offer a sudden, quick nod sounding as they confirm that the adults did indeed play with them first. Eleanor tells the children they can go play while she watches, but she privately scolds herself for ever trusting the three men as the boys make a sudden, quick scurry sounding across the grass. The wind makes a sudden, quick whish sounding as Eleanor and Enna look up at the beautiful blue sky. Demian and Luke make a sudden, quick fidget, fiddle, and squirm sounding as they sit in the meadow. Eleanor affectionately pets Enna's head while telling the girl she looks just like a princess. A pair of hands makes a sudden, quick swish sounding while holding a beautifully crafted crown made of white flowers. Demian places the flower crown on Eleanor's head while Luke watches with a smile, causing a sudden, quick fray sounding. The group enjoys a happy moment together as they sit on the picnic blanket surrounded by flowers. Eleanor notices the silence and wonders if all the children have finally fallen asleep. Eleanor's eye widens as she is startled by an unexpected sight. A sudden, sharp dun sounding occurs as the men create a sudden, firm, tight sounding while focusing intensely on their task. Keitel and Ismail are covered in sweat as a sudden, sharp dun sounding highlights the intensity of the competition. A sudden, sharp dun sounding echoes as the three men appear behind one another with focused expressions, while Eleanor is shocked by their intense competitive energy as she hears a sudden, high-pitched kia sounding. Ismail waves while asking if the treasures were hidden, but Eleanor scolds them with a sudden, grumpy, nag and scold sounding for letting the children return so soon just to play ball. The three men apologize with a sudden, heavy huff and puff sounding, admitting they simply got too carried away with the game. Eleanor scolds the men to act their age while they find her frustrated expression to be incredibly lovely and cute. Eleanor warns the children to be careful not to hurt themselves as they run back toward the trees. Eleanor lets out a sudden, quick pew sounding, but is immediately confused by something she sees. She wonders what could possibly be wrong with the men now. A sudden, heavy dun sounding occurs as three men desperately search through the grass and bushes for the elusive wish coupons. A hand reaches into a hollow tree with a sudden, quick rustle sounding to retrieve a hidden prize. Demian experiences a sudden, quick blush sounding after finding a note from Adrian promising a fancy telescope. A sudden, loud squeal sounding erupts from Enna as she joyfully announces she found the prince's favorite quill. Luke triumphantly shows off his prize, which is a note for a silver compass from Keitel. A sudden, sharp dun sounding occurs as a hand holds up a small piece of paper in victory. Ismail stands proudly in the field and announces that he has found the very last treasure. The blonde prince smiles with absolute satisfaction as he holds his prize. Keitel and Adrian let out a sudden, heavy grunt and groan sounding as they stare in complete displeasure at Ismail's victory. Ismail approaches Eleanor with the coupon while she admits she is genuinely scared of what his wish might be. Eleanor begs him to just use the wish quickly to put her mind at ease, and the prince enigmatically agrees. Ismail reaches his hand out to Eleanor, who remembers the pain of their last encounter, but still agrees to his request. A tea party begins as someone asks Dahlia if she has heard the most recent gossip. Two women discuss how the crown prince has surprisingly chosen a new dance partner for the upcoming ball. Dahlia Morris is introduced as the daughter of a count, appearing bored by the news. After a sudden, quick giggle sounding, the other woman offers a sudden, quiet whisper sounding as she reveals the name of the prince's new partner. Dahlia has a sudden, quick flinch sounding as she hears the name Eleanor Everett. The women express disbelief that the prince would choose Eleanor over someone as stunning as Lady Azent. They gossip about Eleanor's supposed relationships with many powerful men and suggest inviting her to their next gathering. Dahlia claims that Eleanor won't attend because she doesn't care for social affairs, though she is curious to see her. The blonde woman is shocked to find out that Dahlia knew Eleanor when they were children. Bernadette realizes she has been talking too much, but Dahlia coldly corrects her, stating that she and Eleanor are not friends. Dahlia looks away with a cold and distant expression. A dark narration confirms that the two women will never be friends. The scene shifts to the day of Adrian's music class at a grand and ornate estate. A person's brown shoes are shown stepping across the polished floor. A framed family portrait on the wall shows two parents seated with their two children standing behind them. A man with light brown hair is seen from behind as he looks at something. Lord Adrian stares forward with a very serious and thoughtful expression. A close-up shows the blonde girl from the portrait appearing much younger. Adrian smiles softly as he notes how round her cheeks were when she was 20. Adrian smiles warmly while looking ahead. Eleanor's expression shifts to sudden shock. Walking through the palace gardens, Eleanor teases Adrian about whether there is a girl he finds particularly pretty. Adrian tells her to stop talking nonsense while she observes that he is acting exactly like a typical teenage boy. Eleanor holds up a cluster of sweet peas and asks Adrian if he thinks the flowers are beautiful. Adrian stares at her as his heart gives a sudden, heavy thud sounding while he thinks she is incredibly pretty. After a sudden, quick turn sounding, Adrian tries to convince himself that Eleanor is not pretty at all as his heart continues to pound. Eleanor calls for Adrian to wait as he walks ahead, struggling with the strange and confusing feelings blooming in his heart. Adrian clutches a massive bouquet of flowers with a completely flushed face and a look of deep distress. Months later in the market, Adrian notes how much taller he has grown, while remarking that Eleanor has not grown at all. Eleanor insists that his observation is wrong and claims she has definitely grown taller as well. At the academy, a friend asks Adrian if he is reading a letter from a girlfriend since he receives them so frequently. After a sudden, quiet gasp sounding occurs, Adrian denies having a girlfriend despite his friend pointing out that he is grinning from ear to ear. His friend insists that receiving a letter every single week since they entered the academy can only mean one thing. Adrian looks away with a troubled expression, once again dismissing the suggestion as total nonsense. Looking down at the letter, Adrian silently wishes that Eleanor was not the person he had actually fallen for. A flashback shows the two friends laughing and playing together by a grand fountain when they were children. Adrian recalls how he spent years traveling between ports on merchant vessels, trying to manage his solitary anguish. Standing on the deck of the ship, Adrian reflects that his current days are actually quite peaceful despite his inner turmoil. After a sudden, quick rush sounding, a man delivers the horrific news that the carriage Lord Felix was riding in was caught in a rock slide. The wreckage of a carriage wheel lies crushed beneath a massive pile of jagged stones. Adrian stands paralyzed with shock at home while his mother weeps uncontrollably in the background. As a sudden, quick sprint sounding occurs, Eleanor runs through the corridors of the estate with great urgency. Eleanor's voice makes a sudden, loud burst sounding as she cries out for Adrian with tears streaming down her face. Eleanor makes a sudden, quick dash sounding across the tiled floor as she spots Adrian standing alone. Eleanor pulls Adrian into a tight embrace as they both experience a sudden, heavy shake, tremble, and squeeze sounding. Eleanor tearfully apologizes for her late arrival and expresses her deepest sympathies for the terrible tragedy. As a sudden, quiet drip sounding of a tear falls, Adrian tells Eleanor she can let out all of her emotions. Adrian experiences a sudden, heavy lean, sob, sniffle, and clasp sounding as he holds onto her in his grief. During the funeral, Adrian notes that Eleanor stayed by their side until the family was finally able to recover from the loss. Standing at the cemetery, Eleanor lets out a sudden, quiet sniffle sounding while leaning against Adrian's arm. Adrian looks at Eleanor with a deeply somber and appreciative expression during the burial. After stepping into the role of the family heir, Adrian realizes that his entire life and surroundings have changed completely. Eleanor enters the study to gently inform Adrian that dinner is ready for everyone. Adrian notes that even after his brother left, Eleanor's presence remained the one constant thing in his life. After some sudden, quiet mumble and murmur sounding, the two friends bicker lightheartedly about fishing plans and falling asleep. Adrian looks at Eleanor and tells her that he wants to go along with her as well. Adrian explains that he values their time together because he likes her, even if she finds some of their activities boring. Adrian smiles as Eleanor laughs, realizing that this moment marked the true beginning of his long and unrequited love. In the present day, Adrian pauses in the hallway to look at his family's portrait with a nostalgic look. A sudden, quick blush sounding colors Adrian's cheeks as he turns around with a soft and gentle smile. During the music lesson, Adrian asks which of the children would like to practice their piano piece first. Eleanor watches Adrian with a smile, thinking to herself that he seems like a natural-born teacher. Eleanor sits on the sofa and observes how well Adrian connects with the children, noting that she's seeing a whole new side of him. As the music plays, Eleanor experiences a sudden, quiet, drowsy, and dozy sounding as she begins to fall asleep. Eleanor closes her eyes and drifts into a peaceful nap while the piano music continues to fill the room. Eleanor recalls the sensation of being asked out on a date, realizing she might have misinterpreted the situation earlier. As a sudden, quick flash sounding occurs, Eleanor blushes deeply and tells herself that the entire idea is completely ridiculous. Eleanor reflects on her long life across two identities, realizing she has gone decades without any romantic experiences until now. Ismael and Keitel stand together, appearing as the two most eligible and potentially flirtatious men in the entire empire. Eleanor feels like a beginner gamer who has been suddenly thrown into a difficult boss battle. She wonders why the men in her life have suddenly developed a minor interest in her. Eleanor contemplates asking Rian for his advice regarding the strange situation she is facing. After a sudden, quick rush sounding, the children head out as their music class officially ends. Adrian waves goodbye as the children rush out of the room in a huge hurry. Eleanor stops Adrian and tells him she needs his advice on something very important. She asks him to lean in so she can speak to him privately without being overheard. After a sudden, quiet whisper sounding, Eleanor mentions both Duke Valentine and the Crown Prince. A sudden, heavy da-dun sounding occurs as she admits both men might have feelings for her. Both characters' hearts give a sudden, quick thump sounding as the atmosphere becomes flustered and embarrassed. A heavy thump sounding fills the hallway as the two stand together in a long silence. Adrian admits he is only making a wild guess about the situation, despite her claims. Eleanor wonders why Adrian isn't more shocked by her sudden and unexpected revelation. After some sudden, quick fiddle and fidget sounding, Adrian says he actually believes her. The two friends stare at each other with very serious and thoughtful expressions. Adrian notes that the Duke's feelings have not exactly been subtle enough to miss. Eleanor is completely stunned to learn that Adrian has known about this for a long time. Adrian lets out a sudden, quiet sigh sounding as he looks down with a sad expression. After a sudden, quiet mumble sounding, Adrian admits he shouldn't have assumed she would stay oblivious forever. Eleanor realizes with shock that Adrian was aware of the truth before she ever figured it out. She questions her own perception, wondering if she is truly as dense as she appears to be. Adrian tells her it is time she finally knew something else as well. Eleanor is surprised to hear there is even more she doesn't know about their situation. She wonders why he never mentioned anything to her despite knowing the truth all along. Adrian looks at her intently and confirms there is actually quite a bit more to know. They gaze into each other's eyes as the atmosphere between them becomes incredibly intense. Eleanor stands beautifully in the hallway, appearing completely frozen by his serious gaze. Eleanor can only manage a shocked gasp in response to his intense words. After a sudden, quick falter sounding, Eleanor asks if he is actually being serious with her. Adrian asks if he looks like he's joking as Eleanor experiences a sudden, quick blush sounding. A sudden, heavy but dumb sounding occurs as Eleanor tries to dismiss the obvious tension between them. Adrian calls her by her nickname, Ellen, which catches her completely off guard. Adrian gazes at her firmly and states that he knows exactly how he feels about her. Adrian admits he has walked the tightrope of being just a friend for long enough. Adrian offers a sincere apology as he stares at her with a soft smile. He admits that he has no desire to help her with her love life at all. The scene shifts back to the present day as the children call out for Lady Eleanor. A sudden, loud burst sounding occurs as the children continue to shout her name urgently. After a sudden, quick jolt sounding, Eleanor wakes up and realizes class has already finished. After she appears visibly worn out and gaunt, the children ask if she is feeling psych. Albert urges Eleanor to get some rest since she looks like she is about to fall over. Eleanor reflects on how she has been in a daze ever since Adrian confessed his feelings. After some sudden, quick throb and ache sounding, Eleanor worries about things becoming unbearable and awkward. Eleanor watches the children and wonders if she should just act like nothing ever happened. Eleanor worries about her habit of spacing out and wonders if she really looks that tired. Eleanor laughs and asks the children if it would be all right if she went to get some rest. She asks Albert to keep an eye on the kids and ensure they make it home safely. After some sudden, quick click and clack sounding, Eleanor walks away while the children watch her leave. Albert asks the children why they are staring at him and if they need any help. After a sudden, quick clatter sounding, a tray of delicious cupcakes is brought out for the children. Count and Countess Everett share a pleasant tea time as they discuss family matters. Countess Everett expresses her concern that Lady Eleanor might be falling ill lately. The Countess questions why the children suspect Eleanor is sick, and the dark-haired boy mentions her dark circles and distractibility. Count Everett smiles gently and suggests that Eleanor has simply been a bit busy with her responsibilities. A simple thought bubble notes that Eleanor's personality has been consistent since her early childhood. Flashback panels show young Eleanor's intense dedication to her books and her parents' lighthearted observations about her reading habits. The Count recalls her as a peculiar and mature child who practically raised her twin brother, Dwight, despite being technically younger. Young Eleanor is remembered as an exceptionally well-mannered yet quirky child as she carries her favorite books. Count Everett laughs heartily while his wife lovingly corrects him, stating that their daughter's quirky nature is what makes her special. The Countess mentions that the twins' birthday is approaching, which immediately piques the interest of the three children. The dark-haired boy mumbles a hesitant request to know if his brother can attend the celebration. Count Everett appears visibly flustered when he realizes the children are referring to the intimidating Duke Valentine. With sparkling and twinkling eyes, the dark-haired boy pleads to know if it would be impossible for his brother to come. Another child chimes in with a request to bring their own uncle to the birthday gathering as well. The children share a happy and mischievous laugh as they continue to plan their guest list. After a sudden, quick gasp sounding, Count and Countess Everett are paralyzed with shock at the mention of the Crown Prince attending. A text bubble reflects on the terrifying and overwhelming prospect of hosting both a duke and the Crown Prince. The parents nervously protest that their modest family gathering would be an inappropriate place for such high-ranking and busy guests. The blonde boy gets a teary expression as he explains that all the other relatives are already planning to come. Seeing the child's distress, the Count quickly changes his tune and says they would be absolutely delighted if Dwight's superior attended. A happy child declares with a cheerful laugh that they will make sure he attends no matter what happens. The children ask the parents to keep the entire surprise party a secret from Lady Eleanor as the Countess looks on nervously. The three children wait with eager anticipation as the day of the birthday celebration finally arrives. A wide shot of the grand estate is shown as preparations for the secret surprise party are officially announced. On the morning of her birthday, the Countess enters Eleanor's room to wish her a happy day as birds chirp outside. Eleanor gives her mother a loving wink and a heart-filled greeting as she expresses her gratitude for the birthday wishes. After a sudden, quick rush sounding, a group of maids enters the room with trays and fabrics to begin the morning's preparations. Eleanor is confused by the unusual bustle so early in the morning, but her maids explain they just want to spoil her. A text bubble emphasizes the desire to treat her special on her big day. Eleanor notes that her birthdays are usually very quiet affairs, but her mother insists it is time for a new tradition. The Countess appears overly excited and flustered, which leaves Eleanor feeling slightly suspicious of her mother's strange behavior. While being pampered by her maids, Eleanor's internal monologue reveals she thinks her mother is acting very odd today. The sound of rustling silk fills the air as the maids prepare an elaborate and stunning pink gown for Eleanor to wear. The maids are completely captivated by Eleanor's transformation and let out a collective shout of admiration at her beauty. Looking at her reflection, Eleanor expresses some concern that the elaborate dress might be a bit too much for the occasion. A sparkling glow surrounds Eleanor as she stands fully dressed in her ornate and incredibly elegant birthday attire. A text bubble reflects Eleanor's confusion about why her mother went to such great lengths to get her glammed up. Her mother urges Eleanor to head downstairs for dinner since the rest of the family is already waiting for her. A text bubble confirms that Dwight has already arrived home and is waiting for his sister to join the celebration. After a sudden quick click and clack sounding of her heels, Eleanor descends the stairs and stops in her tracks with a stunned expression. Eleanor stands at the bottom of the staircase, completely frozen and speechless by the sight before her. The entire group, including the children and their prestigious relatives, cheers and wishes a shocked Eleanor a happy birthday. After a sudden, quiet done sounding occurs, Duke Valentine looks at her with a gentle and appreciative smile. Another done sounding punctuates the appearance of the Crown Prince. A heavy dun-dun sounding fills the hallway as Adrian stands among the guests with a calm and somber expression. The children share a happy laugh as they reveal their surprise, while Eleanor stands completely overwhelmed by the prestigious guest list. After a sudden, heavy thump sounding of her heart, Eleanor realizes this entire situation feels more like a dream. After she lets out a sudden, loud gasp sounding, Eleanor tells herself that this entire evening is a very sweet but ridiculous nightmare. At the dinner table, a sudden clatter and clink sounding of dishes occurs as Eleanor asks how everyone knew to come. Dwight looks haggard while the Countess explains that they invited the guests, although the children were the true masterminds behind the surprise. The young pink-haired girl cheers enthusiastically. The white-haired Crown Prince is invited to share some celebratory words with the group. After a sudden, quick swish sounding, the Crown Prince offers his thanks to Count Everett for the invitation. After a sudden, quiet bow sounding occurs, the prince acknowledges Dwight for his constant dedication and hard work. After a sudden, quiet nod sounding, he turns his warm attention toward his dearest friend, Eleanor. He expresses his sincere joy in being able to celebrate both twins' birthdays on this special day. The Crown Prince offers a gentle and charming smile. Eleanor blushes slightly as she offers a graceful smile in return. A cheerful laugh echoes through the hall as the entire party raises their glasses for a toast. After a sudden, quiet done sounding occurs, Eleanor and Adrian find themselves locking eyes across the long table. Adrian watches Eleanor with a calm and steady gaze. Eleanor notes the mounting tension and finds the current atmosphere to be incredibly awkward. A guest asks if the family always holds such elaborate gatherings for their annual birthday celebrations. Eleanor admits that while they always celebrate, their parties are usually never this grand or extravagant. Eleanor turns the conversation to Adrian and asks how he normally chooses to spend his own birthday. Adrian admits he treats it like any other workday, though he clarifies he always prioritizes his brother's birthday. The sound of lighthearted giggles and happy laughter continues to fill the beautifully decorated dining hall. Adrian sits quietly at the table, appearing deep in thought as he listens to the ongoing festivities. Eleanor clasps her hands together with a look of pure, heartfelt happiness on her face. Adrian notes that it makes sense for her to value such a joyful and momentous occasion. After a sudden, quiet done sounding, the Crown Prince jokingly asks if Adrian will remember his birthday too. Adrian points out that he has never missed a single one of the prince's official birthday banquets. The Crown Prince appears genuinely confused and admits he has no memory of seeing Adrian at those events. Amidst a flurry of happy laughter, Eleanor suggests the prince was simply too distracted by the many ladies present. After a sudden, quiet trickle sounding, Dwight looks absolutely sickened by the blatant flirting happening at the table. The prestigious guests and the birthday girl enjoy a moment of quiet reflection during the lavish meal. A text bubble observes that the influential men at the table are completely focused on Eleanor. Adrian is shown blushing slightly as he listens intently and nods at everything Eleanor has to say. Dwight recalls the Crown Prince asking him for advice on Eleanor's personal preferences before the party began. After a sudden, heavy thump sounding of his heart, Dwight is struck by a terrifying realization about his sister's suitors. After a sudden, quick swish sounding, a magnificent and tiered birthday cake is brought out for the twins. After some sudden, quick dash and fwish sounding, the children rush forward to present Eleanor with their gifts first. One of the children proudly presents a box of gingerbread cookies, noting they drew all the faces themselves. A stunning and intricate gemstone hair clip shaped like a purple flower is revealed as another special gift. The Crown Prince encourages young Luke to help Eleanor try on the beautiful and elegant new accessory. The Countess suggests that Eleanor and Dwight should move closer to blow out the candles before the wax strips. Eleanor stands beautifully as she wears the new flower hair clip, appearing touched by all the love and attention. Adrian looks at her warmly and reminds her that it is finally time to make her official birthday wish. Amidst quiet whispers and mutters, Dwight asks his sister if she has already thought of a special wish. Eleanor and Dwight share a quiet and thoughtful moment as they look at the flickering birthday candles together. Eleanor tells the group she doesn't really have a wish because her life already feels perfect and complete. Adrian suggests that she should simply wish for her life to remain exactly as wonderful as it is now. A glowing text bubble expresses the hope that her future remains as bright as this current happy moment. A wide shot shows the family and guests gathered together in the grand, flower-filled hall during the celebration. After some sudden, quiet rustle and fumble sounding, Eleanor begins to unwrap a particularly fancy-looking gift box. The Crown Prince identifies the gift as his own, noting that its elegance reminded him of Eleanor's personality. Eleanor is surprised to discover that the prince has gifted her a bottle of very expensive-looking wine. After a sudden, quiet shudder sounding, Eleanor realizes Dwight must have been the one to suggest such a gift. The prince hesitates and asks if she dislikes the present, but Eleanor quickly assures him that is not the case. Adrian points a finger upward and hints that there is actually much more to the gift than meets the eye. Eleanor is stunned by her gift.
The white-haired prince hopes the book is filled with happy stories, while Eleanor finds it too beautiful to write in.
The prince offers a charming grin.
The young black-haired boy nervously prepares to present his own gift.
Eleanor warmly thanks Demian for the present as the black-haired man mentions the boy selected it personally.
A brown-haired child whispers that Eleanor loves flowers, noting the black-haired man provided some assistance. Eleanor is captivated by the beautiful geraniums. After a sudden, soft peck sounding, Eleanor gives the black-haired boy a kiss on the forehead.
The black-haired man admits a preference for growing flowers rather than picking them.
Delighted to find another plant lover, Eleanor invites the black-haired man to visit the garden during the summer.
Eleanor compliments his taste, while the black-haired man claims the forests in his duchy are even more spectacular. The black-haired man privately wonders why he becomes so flustered and bashful whenever he is near Eleanor. After he lets out a sudden, quick gasp sounding, the black-haired man is shocked to hear the prince bought the same gift for Dwight.
Internal dialogue notes that he completely forgot Eleanor had a twin and should have brought 2 gifts. The black-haired man stands in silent, awkward realization as the others wait.
After a sudden, quick swish sounding, the black-haired man presents Eleanor with a music box, and she thanks him.
The black-haired man considers giving a warning later, but a palace messenger suddenly interrupts the party.
The messenger announces an urgent message specifically for the prince and the duke. The prince asks if there is immediate danger, but the messenger clarifies that the prince's presence is just needed right away. The royal order explains that the Princess of Mosen is visiting and requires special attention. The prince asks about the timing and learns the princess will arrive in only 1 hour. The black-haired man looks deeply annoyed as he reads the official correspondence.
The king has placed all responsibility for the royal visit on the prince. The decree is addressed directly to the white-haired prince. The prince reacts with utter shock while the black-haired man prepares to leave for the palace.
Both men share a heavy and somber look.
The prince sighs about impending palace chaos and asks the black-haired man about his history with the princess at the academy.
The name Hildegard Calier R. de Mosen appears.
Hildegard is described as the king of Mosen's beloved daughter, known for her wild reputation and great beauty.
She was famously nicknamed the runaway horse after storming out of school. She traveled between various countries, though her significant influence often caused political concerns.
Every nation she visited was impacted by her presence due to her father's deep affection for her. Foreign leaders went to great lengths to remain in her good graces.
After a sudden, heavy dun sounding, the prince points out that the black-haired man is still her closest contact in the empire. The black-haired man remains indifferent, while the prince warns that offending her would anger the kingdom of Mosen. The prince reluctantly admits that the black-haired man is being annoyingly logical today.
The black-haired man notes the prince is repeating his complaints.
Eleanor stands alone, looking startled and worried by the sudden departure of the guests. The white-haired prince tries to reassure Eleanor that the unexpected guest is not her concern. After he gives a sudden quiet nod sounding, the black-haired man prepares to head to the palace.
Eleanor offers to let the boy stay for the night, and the black-haired man tells him to do as he likes. The 2 children sit together on the sofa looking small and quiet. The black-haired boy blushes as he decides he wants to stay at the estate. The group gathers in the courtyard.
The brown-haired man asks Dwight to mind the children so he can speak privately with Eleanor. Eleanor turns with a start after feeling a sudden quick tap-tap sounding on her shoulder.
The brown-haired man asks Eleanor to walk with him, causing her to blush in surprise.
The brown-haired man stands tall before Eleanor. He offers her a warm and kind smile. The brown-haired man wishes Eleanor a happy birthday.
Eleanor stands alone, appearing caught in a moment of quiet reflection.
After a sudden, quiet creak and squeak sounding, a memory of childhood is recalled, where Eleanor would spend the entire day playing on a garden swing. Kian invites Eleanor to take a seat, offering her a kind and gentle look.
The brown-haired man reminds Eleanor of a day a storm blew the swing away and how she cried as if her whole world had ended.
Kian notes they were only 8 years old at the time, the same age that Sienna and Demian are now. Eleanor looks away thoughtfully and remarks on how quickly time has passed.
Kian emphasizes that he is her friend above all else. They grew up together as Kian asks how he could possibly be unaware of her personal preferences.
Kian openly admits that he has romantic feelings for her. Eleanor is visibly stunned by his sudden confession. After a sudden, quiet rustle sounding, Kian explains he simply wanted to tell her and acknowledges that it likely makes her feel awkward. Eleanor blushes slightly as she asks if her reaction was that obvious to him. Kian confirms it was very much so, while Eleanor apologizes and explains she wasn't sure how to act or if she should give him an answer. Eleanor admits that she has never had to navigate such a complicated situation before now.
A flashback shows the black-haired man looking stoic. A flashback shows the white-haired prince offering a gentle smile.
Kian watches Eleanor with a calm and patient gaze. Internal thoughts reveal that while she knows of their feelings, Eleanor's own heart still feels like a confusing maze. Eleanor confesses that she isn't even certain of what her own feelings are. Kian tells her to do whatever feels right and take all the time she needs, leaving Eleanor to wonder if she truly can. Overlooking the sun-drenched city, Kian points out that every man in Bellium is interested in her, so she should decide without fear of ruining their friendship. Eleanor asks for reassurance, and Kian tells her to simply stop avoiding him from now on. After she lets out a sudden, quiet fret sounding, Eleanor asks him directly if they are truly still friends. Kian looks down at her with a steady and affectionate gaze. After he gives a sudden, quiet blink sounding, the scene shifts to the young black-haired boy waking up in the dark. After some sudden, quick shake sounding, Eleanor sits on the edge of the bed and invites Demian to have a little chat. After he gives a sudden, quiet nod sounding, Demian sits up to listen to her. After a sudden, quiet, careful sounding, Eleanor asks the boy why he didn't want to attend the academy when they first met. Eleanor wonders what was on his mind back then. After some sudden, quiet, hesitate, and fidget sounding, Demian admits his reluctance was because he didn't want to leave his home. Eleanor asks if he was scared of being away, but Demian clarifies he was actually afraid he wouldn't be allowed to return home.
A flashback shows an official decision being made that sending the boy to the academy would be best for everyone.
After a sudden, heavy done sounding, the memory shows Keitel deciding that the academy would be a better environment for the boy than the manor. Demian says he is fine now, though back then he mistakenly believed Keitel hated him. The boy realizes he was wrong about his guardian, even if he still finds the black-haired man a little difficult to deal with. Demian admits he is only a tiny bit scared now because his friends will be there, and Eleanor warmly calls him a brave boy. Demian expresses a hope to grow as big as Keitel someday, and Eleanor assures him he will grow as quickly as a weed. Demian reflects on a friend's compliment about him being a good listener, noting he was simply staying quiet. After she lets out a sudden, quick pfft sounding, Eleanor is shown dying from laughter at the boy's honesty. After a sudden, soft hug sounding, Eleanor pulls Demian into a warm embrace and tells him she likes him too. Narration notes the boy is absolutely adorable as the scene shifts to the moonlit palace exterior. Eleanor turns with a start as she hears someone call her name. Eleanor meets with Kian in the kitchen late at night to discuss something. Eleanor looks at the music box while the brown-haired man admits the gift doesn't really seem to suit her. After a sudden, quiet drop sounding, a small card falls onto the floor. After he lets out a sudden, quick oof sounding, Kian bends over to pick up the falling card. Kian realizes the card wasn't addressed to him and hands it over to Eleanor. A memory shows Keitel writing a heartfelt message wishing for sweet dreams and a life free from any troubles. Eleanor looks at the small card in her hands with a stunned and surprised expression. After a sudden, soft flutter sounding, the text reflects on what a strangely enchanting night the celebration has turned into. Outside the grand estate, voices call out asking if the lady is inside and requesting to enter for a moment.
After she says to come in, 3 maids enter the room to greet Eleanor and ask if she slept well.
The maids excitedly present a large bouquet of red roses and a letter that arrived specifically from the palace. Eleanor looks at the elegant letter with a stunned and wide-eyed expression. The maids are depicted in a chibi style, looking eager and pleading as they beg Eleanor to read the message aloud. Eleanor gives a nervous laugh while the maids offer to hold the flowers so she can open the correspondence. A vision of the white-haired prince appears as the invitation reveals he is officially asking Eleanor to be his partner at the upcoming imperial banquet. The scene shows a close-up of the prince's gloved hand gently taking Eleanor's hand. A romantic illustration depicts Prince Ismail and Eleanor dancing together in a grand sunlit ballroom. After a sudden, soft plush sounding, Eleanor blushes intensely as she clutches the invitation to her chest. Off-screen, the maids squeal about how romantic the pair is and ask if she said yes, to which Eleanor confirms she promised she would. The maids are overjoyed, wondering aloud if this means Eleanor will eventually become the future crown princess. One maid tells another to hush, suggesting she might instead become a duchess or a marchioness, while Eleanor stands between them looking completely flustered. Eleanor looks down thoughtfully, still blushing as the maids continue to chatter about her future. The scene shifts to a wide view of the sprawling and majestic imperial palace. Inside, Prince Ismail notes that they would have prepared a grander welcome if word had been sent ahead, but tells the guests to make themselves at home. The white-haired prince adds that he welcomes them warmly and hopes they enjoy their stay. A red-haired woman acknowledges his words, but sharply tells him to ensure he doesn't leave anything out. After a sudden, heavy done sounding, Hildegard Calier de Mosen, the Princess of Mosen, is formally introduced with a confident smirk. As they walk through the palace, Keitel translates that the princess is pleased to meet him and complimented his appearance, though Ismail remains suspicious of her gaze. Ismail notes with a smug look that at least the princess has an eye for beauty. The prince and the princess walk past one another with a cold and distant atmosphere between them. Internal thoughts reveal that Ismail finds Hildegard's rudeness absolutely unbearable. Simultaneously, Hildegard thinks to herself that she has zero patience for the prince's arrogance. After a sudden, heavy done sounding, narration explains that things only appear peaceful because Keitel is editing out all of their sharp remarks while interpreting. Hildegard looks over her shoulder, internally questioning if the translator is actually saying what she intended. At the breakfast table, Ismail watches the guest and thinks about what a spoiled princess she is for never being on time and having such wild hair. Hildegard is shown sitting in a chair with her legs crossed, wearing pants instead of a traditional dress. The princess looks relaxed and elegant as she sits at the table enjoying a morning drink. The two royals exchange a forced grin and a smile, masking their mutual dislike. After a sudden, quick thump sounding, Dwight the aide stands nearby, looking incredibly stressed and nervous. Ismael demands to know what the princess just said, while Dwight hesitates to answer. After a sudden, quiet drip sounding, Dwight sweats profusely as he softens her insult, claiming she thinks his hair is merely inappropriate for the occasion. Ismael tells Dwight to inform her that this is what proper decorum looks like, while Hildegard asks Dwight to repeat what the prince just said. Hildegard stares at the prince and internally thinks that his statement is a total joke.
Dwight looks between the two of them, wondering if he is really supposed to interpret the princess's dismissive thought as well.
Hildegard looks back and tells the translator not to leave out a single word she says, while Keitel watches with a blank expression.
Ismael lets out a tesk and thinks that she lacks even basic table manners, comparing her unfavorably to little Lucas.
After a sudden sharp bzz sounding, a spark of pure animosity flies between the prince and the princess as they glare at each other.
Dwight closes his eyes and sighs, looking completely drained by the constant bickering he has to mediate.
Hildegard looks across the table, her gaze fixed on the blonde aide. Dwight looks away, appearing deeply uncomfortable under the princess's scrutiny. Hildegard smiles and tells Dwight that she actually rather likes him.
The princess asks Dwight directly if he could assist her during the remainder of her stay.
Dwight flushes red in shock as Ismael furrows his brow and demands to know why he is making that face. Ismael sternly orders Dwight to tell her it isn't happening, and as the message is conveyed, Hildegard notes that things are about to get inconvenient. Ismael sits on his throne looking incredibly grumpy and annoyed.
After a sudden loud yell and holler sounding, a memory shows the king berating Ismael for treating the princess so poorly and ordering him to give her whatever she wants for 3 months.
After a sudden loud hash sounding, the king tells Ismael to try to get along with such a refined and beautiful lady, much to Ismael's shock. The king suggests that Hildegard might even be a good match for him, leaving Ismael looking deeply displeased. Prince Ismael looks incredibly troubled and serious as he sits alone. Sitting in his grand office, the prince contemplates the king's suggestion that the foreign princess is his ideal match.
Ismael's thoughts drift to Eleanor, whose bright image haunts his current frustration.
Eleanor stands alone, looking crushed as the news breaks that her role as the crown prince's partner has been handed to another. After a sudden, quiet scratch sounding, Eleanor tries to drown out her disappointment while working in the library. From behind the glass, the blonde woman resolves to simply focus on her duties until it is time for her to depart. After a sudden, quick stop sounding, Eleanor pauses her writing as she reflects on the news that Dwight would be her escort instead. Sitting at her desk, Eleanor wonders if she even has the heart to attend the ball in her current state. The young woman looks up with a sudden start, sensing something unusual outside. Peering through the window, Eleanor is shocked to see Keitel arriving at the estate with a carriage. After a sudden, loud clatter sounding, Eleanor stands up abruptly, her heart racing at the sight of her guardian. After some sudden, quick dash sounding, Eleanor rushes down the hall, confused because she heard Keitel was occupied with the other princess. After she lets out a sudden, quick gasp sounding, Eleanor comes to a stop as she finally sees the black-haired man waiting for her. Keitel stands tall in a regal blue uniform, acknowledging Eleanor's presence. After she gives a sudden, quiet blink sounding, Eleanor stares at him in utter disbelief. After he gives a sudden, soft smile, sounding, Keitel notes that she came down to meet him even earlier than expected. Eleanor asks what brought him here since he was supposed to be working, and he reveals there is a specific question he needs to ask. The dark-haired man falls into a tense silence for a moment. Internally, Keitel realizes how deeply Eleanor must have been hurt by the day's events. Keitel asks if she is only planning to attend the ball to spite the crown prince. A flashback reveals Keitel confronting Hildegard, accusing her of causing unnecessary trouble. The man points out that her actions have surely caused pain to the woman who was supposed to be the prince's partner. After a sudden, quiet scoff sounding, Hildegard dismisses his concern, arguing that she is actually saving the girl from a rude brat. Hildegard notes Keitel's obvious anger and asks about Dwight's whereabouts, finding the aide much more entertaining. Keitel realizes with a sinking feeling that Eleanor is already aware of the situation. After some sudden, heavy step sounding, Keitel abruptly leaves the room, suggesting the princess practice some solitude for once. Keitel considers that since Eleanor is currently without a partner for the evening, he wonders if she would be willing to go with him, while she waits for him to finish his question. The two stand facing each other in the lush garden as the sun begins to set. Eleanor looks up at him with a soft, expectant gaze. Keitel apologizes for his extreme tardiness and admits that showing up empty-handed isn't very romantic. Extending his hand, he promises her that if she accepts him, he won't let her down again. Eleanor looks on with a tender smile, clearly moved by his sincere offer. After a sudden soft rustle sounding, Eleanor places her hand in his and tells him to be sure he picks her up on time. At the grand banquet hall, guests gossip about the prince's new partner and dismiss the rumors about Eleanor as mere fiction. After some sudden, quiet snicker sounding, noblewomen laugh at the idea of the prince choosing Eleanor over a high-ranking lady. A young lady in a dark dress listens to the chatter with a curious expression. After a sudden, soft swish sounding, Lady Anais Robert Isent is formally introduced to the gathered nobility. The crowd is mesmerized by the lady's incredible elegance, though they notice someone else following closely behind. A woman in a pink dress looks on with a bewildered expression. To the shock of the entire ballroom, Eleanor enters the gala on the arm of the powerful Duke of Valentine. Noticing the heavy silence and the intense staring, Eleanor nervously asks Kydell if they have made a mistake. After he gives a sudden, quiet chuckle sounding, Kydell tells her there is no reason to be nervous because everyone is simply struck by her beauty. Walking down the center of the hall, Kydell instructs her to keep her eyes only on him. Kydell promises to keep his gaze fixed on her as well, offering her the comfort she needs. Eleanor looks ahead, her face flushing as she processes his intense devotion. Eleanor notices Lady Eisent staring at her with a piercing intensity and wonders if she has done something to offend her. The Master of Ceremonies formally announces the arrival of Crown Prince Ismael and Princess Hildegard. Hildegard looks toward Eleanor, internally acknowledging the young woman's striking beauty. The red-headed princess thinks that Ismael's arrogant demeanor actually suits him quite well in this formal setting. Eleanor reflects on her disappointment over not being the prince's partner. After she lets out a sudden, quick gasp sounding, Eleanor looks up at her companion in surprise. Kydell tells her to stop staring and keep her eyes fixed solely on him. Eleanor offers an apology and suggests they head inside. The royal couple sits in stony silence. Hildegard asks the blonde aide when the prince's serious face will finally chill. Ismael commands Dwight to tell the princess to be quiet. Hildegard finds the prince's petty behavior completely insufferable. Dwight pleads for silence while Hildegard asks if he fears Ismael's middled. After she lets out a sudden, quiet sigh sounding, Hildegard notes the prince's intense focus on Eleanor. Eleanor appreciates the company, but still wonders about her partner's motives. Ismael seethes with jealousy over Eleanor's choice of partner. Hildegard finally realizes the significance of Kydell's ball partner. Eleanor beams happily at her partner. A thought questions the lady's mysterious connection to Prince Ismael.